Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. American Comics. Extracting the Immortality of Cancer Cells at the Beginning. Chapter 21. In the world of the boys, compound number 5 is an extremely unstable evolutionary drug, and it tests the tolerance and mental strength of the injected body to the extreme, and also requires a little luck. As the most powerful superhuman recognized by the current society, Homelander in the Seven is not born, nor is it hard work. This is all due to his luck that he survived from his own mentally ill mother's womb and had an unexpected adaptability to compound number 5. In the original book, Homelander was kept in captivity by the Vought group because of this adaptability. He was firmly trapped in the laboratory, injected with a superhuman serum every year, and trained by experimental personnel to have his current abilities. Therefore, most comic fans speculate that there are two key points to whether a superhuman is powerful or not. The first is to see whether the amount of compound number 5 injected is enough. The second is to see if your body has the luck and ability to withstand the instability and random variability brought by compound number 5. Not only that, comic fans also speculate that when ordinary people are injected with compound number 5, the abilities catalyzed by the compound are mostly related to the subject's obsession. For example, Huey's hatred for the locomotive caused him to awaken the ability to teleport after injecting compound number 5. Butcher was determined to eradicate the Homelanders, so he awakened the physical enhancement and laser eyes that could compete with the Homelanders. Combining all the above considerations and speculations, Jonathan planned to stack a large amount of compound number 5 to ensure that his ability was not weak while awakening the RNA noun card ability he specified. Life or death depends on whether these comic fans' speculations are powerful. Gulp gulp. Jonathan blew into the experimental barrel like drinking beer. While drinking, the huge energy contained in compound number 5 directly turned into a spreading and ferocious golden light, which began to grow from his throat like a lightning pattern, gradually covering Jonathan's entire body. At this moment, Shetty, with her head drooping, showed her presence again. She forced her eyes open and smiled. You want to feed her compound number 5. Don't waste your efforts. Before being infected by the virus, this can indeed restore the injuries of superhumans, but the virus was originally developed to target the components of compound No. 5. Now, you should think about how to handle her funeral. Who would have thought? You superhumans who are bright and beautiful on the surface are just Luthers with shit in their heads, being played by an ordinary person. One Shuance, one of you. I just deceived him with the fake news of the soldier boy, and he came to cooperate with me obediently. It's ridiculous. Although this old woman did not guess what she wanted to do, and did not know that her replacement, Luke, was not a real purebred superhuman. But this old woman was still barking wildly after becoming a broken-back dog, which was really noisy. As for Shuance, Jonathan didn't expect that this guy would be so afraid of the foot-sucking boy. Thinking of this, while waiting for the number 5 compound to take effect, Jonathan deliberately put a number 5 compound into a syringe, and then walked in front of Zayati. Old woman, you like to be sarcastic and talk nonsense, right? Don't you hate superhumans very much? That's very interesting. I'm curious, after you become a superhuman, will you kill yourself? Since you hate superhumans, why are you still the president of your mother's university? You think that the superhuman family makes money from them, and you don't know how much you make yourself, double standard dog. I won't kill you today, I'll wait and see. Without waiting for her to respond, Jonathan directly inserted the syringe into her lips. The entire needle was immersed in the junction of her lips and mouth, and then pushed the piston hard. Ignoring Zayati's desperate and extremely frightened eyes and shouts, Jonathan turned around and returned to Kate's side. Boom, boom. The drug took effect, and Jonathan could clearly feel his heartbeat accelerating. After being hit hard, his whole body was like a high-pressure air pump, and the turbulent energy in his body was bursting and dissipating at a very fast speed. ... Jonathan groaned and knelt on one knee uncontrollably. In order to maintain balance, he pinched a steel frame on the experimental table with his fingers. With Jonathan's screams, the steel frame was directly pinched through. At this time, the energy in Jonathan's body began to bite every inch of his muscles and every cell like a mad shark after bursting out. His muscles were torn apart, blood vessels were splattered, and veins on his body were growing rapidly. In less than a minute, he turned into a bloody man. At the same time, Jonathan's amazing self-healing ability was activated, and the broken muscles grew again at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the broken blood vessels quickly squeezed out granulation. But before he could fully recover, a new round of destruction came one after another, and the cycle continued, and the pain was multiplied geometrically. At this time, Jonathan's face was distorted beyond human form due to extreme pain, and the fishy sweetness in his throat was stuck in his nerves. "I'm going to explode." The brutal energy in his body has now condensed to a peak. Due to Jonathan's own self-healing ability, his body is in a state of constant destruction and repair, maintaining a certain balance. But this is only a solution for the body. The mental torture, like slow slicing, almost crushed Jonathan's entire brain nerves, and his entire thinking was at the critical point of breaking and ending. Breath holding. With the last breath of consciousness, the ability is activated, the mind returns to clarity, the parasympathetic nerves of the whole body are forced to start, and the body repair speed is doubled. Jonathan, who was almost sluggish, panted by instinct, swayed his paralyzed body forward, and put his stiff palm on Kate's heart. Noun: ribonucleic acid. Type: microscopic card. Level: SSR. Details: genetic information carrier existing in biological cells and some viruses and viroids. RNA is formed by condensation of ribonucleotides through phosphodiester bonds to form long-chain molecules. Term 1. Reverse transcription. After equipping this term, the ability user will gain the ability to reverse decode any material sequence, and can modify or extract it. The premise of using the ability is to touch it. Activation information error. This entry has been automatically equipped. With the touch of Jonathan's palm, a strange green energy began to flow out of his body and covered Kate's entire body surface. Then, these green energies began to differentiate their functions, transformed into different forms and states to enter Kate's body, automatically adhere to cells and blood, and then began to decode. From a microscopic perspective, the green energy burst, primer, combined with the RNA of the superhuman virus and drove the DNA sequence to polymerize. With the viral RNA as the basic template, the base pairs are paired like a tooth chain, creating something out of nothing, and the complementary DNA chain is directly rubbed out. As the newly synthesized DNA chain continues to extend and degrade, the complementary single-stranded DNA begins to nest with the new basic template, and forms a stable double-stranded DNA with new base pairs. As a result, the DNA sequence of the superhuman virus is directly reverse transcribed and decoded, and the original components are degraded back to the constitutive nature of compound No. 5. This is a reduction reaction from the perspective of chemical properties. Just like dry ice sublimates into gas and then is beaten back to its solid state. At this time, Kate's carbonization began to recover, and all negative states returned to their original state as if they were played back, and seemed to be restored more fully. When the superhuman virus was restored to compound number 5, its own mass was conserved and unchanged, so Kate at this time was equivalent to receiving 2 tubes of compound number 5 for reinforcement again. With these guarantees, it was only a matter of time for Kate to wake up. So tired, Jonathan used his last physical instinct to support the reverse transcription. Now that he had completed the task, all his strength and spirit were exhausted, and the regeneration of the cerebral cortex fell into speed-limiting mode. The body that was half kneeling with all its strength fell straight to the ground and fell into a coma due to exhaustion. Time passed by minute, and there was a dead silence in the laboratory. Only Jonathan's weak breathing sound proved that he was still alive. Bang! Accompanied by a loud bang on the door, Kate, who was lying on the ground, suddenly moved her fingers. The damp, musty smell penetrated into his nose, and the strong light instantly hit his eyelids, causing Jonathan to subconsciously squint his eyes. His consciousness gradually returned from the chaos, and his entire mind seemed to be heavily pressed by a lead block, full of a dull feeling, which directly spread to his neck. With his eyes open, Jonathan immediately tried to turn his head to see the surrounding environment clearly. From the last fragment of his memory, he vaguely remembered that he was supposed to be lying in the forest laboratory, so how did he come here now? Could it be that he was caught by the people of the water group? But this is not an interrogation room. Looking around, this is a cement house that is so simple that almost only the gray walls are left, and he is lying on a bed made of old mattresses. Why is my arm hot? As Jonathan's consciousness gradually became clear, He sat up suddenly and just met the eyes of Kate, who was suddenly awakened beside him. Luke, you finally woke up. Kate's eyes were still a little red at this time, her voice was a little hoarse, and the deep joy and concern in her pupils were beyond words. It was Kate's hand that grabbed Jonathan. Judging from the red marks left on it, Kate obviously grabbed it for the whole night. Honey, how long have I been like this? Luke, you have been lying for almost 2 days. Do you want me to prepare something for you to eat? You haven't eaten for so long. I'm not hungry yet. Honey, do you want to tell me what's going on? Jonathan looked around and found that there were several familiar faces standing opposite the bed, especially one of them who rarely appeared, followed by several fully armed guards. Obviously, it must be some official organization that came. Awake, how do you feel? The owner of the face walked to Jonathan's bedside, with a serious expression and sharp eyes staring at Jonathan. It turns out that it's Deputy Director Susan of the CIA in person. I'm honored. Thanks to you, I feel pretty good now, but I don't think you're just here to care about my life or death. Butcher is right, you really know a lot of things. I rarely show up in public, and you know my intelligence very well. I'm curious, who are you? Luke Warrington, you're just an ordinary superhuman college student, and you've taken up 60% of the online public opinion attention of the entire Godokan University. Logically speaking, you should be busy with various business orders and have no time to do other things. But you just know so much secret information, even the location of Becca's intelligence is clear to you. This is unreasonable. Unreasonable. In free America, I have my own freedom to do whatever I want. Can your CIA also learn the torture and forced confession? And then again, I haven't done anything illegal. I pay my taxes every year, drive a car, and drive a car. I never drive drunk or run red lights when I go out. You want to find fault with me? Then let me ask, with your CIA's intelligence capabilities, what have you found out? Susan frowned slightly when she heard this, and didn't care about Jonathan's attitude. You should know that hiding things will not do you any good. Hide, Jonathan sneered. Your CIA is so overbearing. Butcher has always kept things from you. What if I hide things, and what if I don't hide things? Although I don't know how did you get here. But from the beginning, this is a deal between Butcher and me. I exchange intelligence for his work. It's 1-to-1 and no one owes anyone anything. Quote. Well, now Butcher has done the job for you, shouldn't you complete the deal? At this point, Butcher, who had been standing next to Susan without saying a word, stared at Jonathan and said gloomily. Little rat fool, I've done my job, what about your deal? Haha, did I say I don't want a deal? It's your aggressive attitude that makes me feel a little uncomfortable. Susan's words made Jonathan laugh. Since I woke up, I was being nagged by these idiots, questioning me like an interrogation. No matter what, the two of us are not of the same level. I put you on an equal footing with a good deal. If you don't appreciate it, don't blame your father for being unreasonable. Although this is a kind of self-praise, I want to know, how can you be so sure that you can take me down without any harm today? Just relying on your 3 or 2 cats and your crappy equipment. You also said that I am the first student of Godokan University. Do you want to think about how I suppressed the challengers below and maintained this ranking for 4 years? The atmosphere in the ward instantly became tense, and the smell of gunpowder filled the air. Kate, who was standing by, held Jonathan's hand tightly. Once a fight broke out, she would activate her abilities without hesitation. Since Jonathan used reverse transcription to restore the superhuman virus in her body, the remaining 2 tubes of compound number 5 directly lifted the restriction that she needed physical contact to activate her abilities. The range of her mind control ability was directly enlarged to a circular field within a radius of 3 meters. In this field, she could influence the thinking of up to 3 people and complete the command manipulation without delay. However, an abrupt voice quickly broke the tense atmosphere. Hey, guys, I think we can sit down and talk. If we really have to fight, then there will definitely be a lot of noise. This area is usually patrolled by the Homelanders. Once there is any situation, well, you know. Huey's words immediately silenced Susan and Butcher, who was about to speak harshly. Indeed, if the Homelanders really come, all the Black Robe Squad members present will be wanted criminals, and they will all be killed by a random laser eye. Moreover, the Homelanders are well known for their superhuman racism. When a few ordinary people face Jonathan and the other superhumans, they will be in trouble, but Jonathan and the other will not be in trouble. If one move is made, the whole game will be lost, and Susan's original plan to rely on the Black Robe Patrol will also go down the drain. Originally, she was anxious to get the mysterious channel behind Jonathan so that the CIA could get more intelligence, but now it seems that she can only make long-term plans. Thinking of this, Susan took a deep breath and lowered her voice to explain. I don't know what your purpose is, but as long as you don't do something like the fools of the motherland, we won't interfere. We came here just to find out your source of intelligence. Including your future entry into the 7-man team, we have nothing to do with it. The whole of America is boiling about you and Kate destroying the woods. We just want to ensure that you don't have any antisocial personality. I believe that there are still superhumans with conscience. Like Starlight Annie. Hearing Susan's words, Jonathan subconsciously felt a little disgusted. No, do all of you American official organizations like moral kidnapping so much? So I don't have my freedom, so I must be noble. You target me for a long time, define me as good or bad based on your own shitty guesses, and then preach for a long time, just for my good. Now Jonathan understands why Aza's character is distorted like this. From childhood to adulthood, he has been locked in the laboratory without a childhood. When he grows up, he is still locked up by various rules and regulations, and is kidnapped by various PUA morals, and then he calls it for your own good. Being a whore and still setting up a memorial arch, who would not be perverted? Jonathan himself is not a person who follows the rules. Although he is not as lawless as Azu and does whatever he wants, he still retains his principles. Having principles does not mean will enforcement. As long as Jonathan wants, he can break the principles at any time, and he doesn't mind releasing the more lawless countryman in his heart. At that time, it will be real. I will do whatever I want. Therefore, he chose to ignore Susan and turn to look at Butcher. Butcher, Dr. Parker from the Water Group knows the location of your wife Becca. She and her son Ryan are being held in a secret, information-blocked, independently built villa complex. Then there's the compound number 5 that I promised you. After saying that, Jonathan's empty hand suddenly flashed, and a bottle of green packaged test tube appeared. Butcher took the test tube, shook it up and down, and asked in confusion. Isn't compound number 5 blue? Fool, you didn't just put some liquid in it to fool me, did you? Just check it yourself. And, your CIA, and what FBI, don't come in and interfere with my life. As he said that, Jonathan moved forward slightly, put his ear close to Susan's ear and said sarcastically. Don't say any more righteous bullshit, everyone has selfish desires, and you are no exception. It's just a matter of excluding superhumans from entering the Ministry of Defense. I'm not a saint, don't use your tricks to kidnap me. As long as you don't bother me, maybe I'll be in a good mood one day, and I can still have a few words to talk. After that, Jonathan pulled Kate and turned back without looking back. Honey, let's go. Headquarters of Water Group, CO's office. Ashley stood in front of the door dressed very formally, looking nervous, holding a stack of documents in her hand. After hesitating for a long time, she still knocked on the door of the office. Knock, knock, Mr. Edgar. Come in. In the office, a middle-aged man with dark brown skin, white hair, and gray-rimmed round glasses on his nose was sitting on a chair, writing something with a pen. The deep creases on his face, the sharp eyes that seemed to see through everything, and the black and white handmade custom suit gave the man a bit of aura of majesty without anger. You are Ashley. I remember you just took over as the head of the group's Human Resources Project Department the day before yesterday. What's up? What's up? Mr. Edgar, it's a 7-man team you left in the Human Resources Department to collect intelligence on newcomers. The old supervisor, Riven, has already gone to other departments. I hadn't taken office yet. So I came here to submit some intelligence. It's like this. I'm busy now and can't get my hands free. Ashley, can you give me a verbal report? Okay. Ashley opened the file with shaking hands, took a deep breath, and tried to keep her voice steady. Mr. Edgar, the following are the results of a survey on the popularity of civilian parahumans. First is Storm Girl. She has a good influence on the public, especially her strong nationalist speeches are very inflammatory, which successfully attracted a large number of followers, especially female groups. She has a feminist aura, which makes her popular among women, has a very high reputation. Quote, "This can help the group gain a lot of female support. You know, the fashion items released by Queen Maeve have been bought out 4 times by crazy female consumers, and the supply is in short supply." The people in the Data Analysis Project department gave Storm a score of 83 for joining the team. Hearing this, Edgar frowned slightly and interrupted. "Just speaking can make her so famous. What about her superpowers?" This evaluation score is probably the highest ever among the other 7 members of the team that year. Except for the Homelander who was selected by the group, Queen Maeve, who is the second most popular, only scored 81 points. Ashley hurriedly continued, "Mr. Edgar, in addition to her outstanding speaking ability, Storm also has the ability to control lightning, can fly, and has a very good physical fitness." Edgar nodded, his sharp eyes flashed a gleam, and after a moment of silence, he motioned her to continue. Ashley then flipped through the report in her hand and said again, "Next are Luke Riverton and Kate Dunlap, who are ranked 1st and 2nd in Godokin University. These 2 people have recently occupied the top 10 hot search terms on the entire superhuman internet, and even ordinary people are discussing their events." "Are you talking about the incident at Godokin University a few days ago?" "Yes, just the day before yesterday, they successfully destroyed the conspiracy of Godokin University President Shetty to create a superhuman virus and destroy superhumans." Speaking of this, Ashley did not hide her shock. "You know, I can stand here today thanks to the mysterious person who called me at the beginning." Originally, Ashley thought that the other party was just a senior executive within the group, and his influence was only within the group. Unexpectedly, the other party's layout could even affect the entire society. And it also involves a huge conspiracy like the superhuman virus. You know, if Shetty really succeeds, the entire VOD group will be hit hard. Not only will the superhuman brand be smashed, but even the industry and market value will shrink rapidly and eventually go bankrupt. Although the VOD group does not rely solely on superhumans to make money, this is the main profitable industry. Even if the superhuman virus breaks out, the VOD group will need a certain amount of time to make an emergency response plan. "Oh, tell me in detail, what are their abilities?" Edgar's eyes flashed with surprise. Due to the recent arrogant and childish behavior of Homelander, he wanted to find a new member of the 7 to replace Homelander's position as the captain of the 7. And at this juncture, more than half of the members of the 7 have entered the cold storage state, injured, alienated, and if this continues, they will soon become the super disabled 7. Ashley swallowed and continued, "Luke Riverton has extraordinary physical fitness and self-healing ability, and can recover quickly even if his limbs are injured. And Kate Dunlap has telepathic abilities similar to the first-generation female superhero, Psychic Storm, and she can also manipulate others with language to a certain extent." Quote, as events happened one after another, the status and image of the mysterious man in Ashley's eyes changed dramatically. In fact, she had memorized this content a long time ago. Originally, she didn't expect it to be useful so soon, but now, while she was going with the flow, she had to admire the efficiency and means of the mysterious man's actions. Edgar crossed his hands and fell into deep thought. The potential of these 2 people should not be underestimated. "So what is their current image in the public?" Ashley quickly replied, "Mr. Edgar, because of this action, they are regarded as saviors by the majority of superhumans, and they are also greatly sought after by the media." Outside Godokin University, reporters from various newspapers squatted in the early morning every day, and as long as there was a slight movement, they would file in. Quote, "Not only that, they are still a couple." Quote, "Based on this alone, the personnel score of the Data Analysis Project department has reached 94. Quote, hearing this, Edgar's eyes flashed with understanding. He stood up, walked to the window, and said with his back to Ashley, "Ashley, this report is quite detailed, but I need you to further analyze the potential impact of their influence on our group and how we should deal with it, understand? Give me another report tonight. If nothing unexpected happens, I will issue orders to the new 7-member team tomorrow." "Well, that's it. If you have any objections, come to me again." Ashley nodded quickly. "Yes, Mr. Edgar, I will finish the report as soon as possible." Edgar turned around slowly and his eyes fell on Ashley again. As a new employee, I hope you can adapt to the requirements of this position as soon as possible and don't let me down. If anyone else has any opinions, you can come to me directly." Hearing this, Ashley was a little flattered, and then said excitedly, "Yes, President, I will work hard." Quote. Then, she carefully left the office. Waiting for the office door to close, she looked very excited, her nose turned up, and she pressed her arms down hard, shouting, "Yes, New York, CIA headquarters. Busha, you did a good job this time. I have applied to the higher-ups to revoke your wanted order." On the office chair, Susan threw a wanted order revocation notice to Butcher and asked him to sign it. "Susan, where is that son of a fool Dr. Parker hiding? You have been looking for him for 2 days, but there is still no news." "Calm down, Butcher. On the surface, this person is a retired central employee of the Water Group, but in fact, he has been secretly hidden and has not appeared for at least 20 years. It will take some time to investigate. Now there is another situation. Do you remember the compound number 5 you got from Luke Warrington last time?" Quote. "What, is it that the fool gave me fake?" No, what he gave me is real, but this compound number 5 has been studied by the technical department and it has a 24-hour efficacy. The side effects are still unknown. So, this is the shit package that turns you into a 24-hour fool and gives you a surprise after using it." Click, click. The steady footsteps stopped abruptly in front of the desk. "Look up and look straight." Edgar leaned against the large desk. His eyes were deep and sharp, his waist was straight and tall, and his aura of majesty was faintly radiating outward. Standing in front of him at this time was Jonathan, who had completed the layout and was, smoothly, promoted to become a member of the 7-man team. Edgar looked at Jonathan dimly, adjusted his glasses, and said in a low voice, "Luke, I heard that you destroyed Shetty's conspiracy a few days ago. You know, that is a virus that specifically destroys superhumans. Have you had a physical examination?" Hearing Edgar's words, Jonathan's eyes flashed with memories. Just yesterday, he and Kate were taken to different interrogation rooms by Walter's Security Project Department for questioning and polygraphing. In the United States, this interrogation method is also called separate inducement. The heads of these security project departments gave Jonathan and Kate multiple divisive speeches, creating false information to confuse their memories and find out the flaws. While finding the flaws, they also connected a lie detector to monitor the heart rates of the two people at any time, and judge the authenticity of the words through fluctuations. But it is obvious that neither Jonathan nor Kate let the project department find out anything. Even the rhetoric was the same, without any flaws at all. Why? First of all, Jonathan and Kate's purpose was to crush Shetty's conspiracy. If the virus was really given to the other party, Jonathan, who wanted to inject compound number 5, and Kate, who was already a superhuman, would be finished sooner or later. Second, Jonathan had never told Kate about all his plans, and even the appearance of the black robe picket was only known to Kate after Kate and Jonathan came to the woods. Kate was completely confused about the rest. The only thing that can be said is the Black Robe team. Now the Black Robe squad has also been released from the wanted list by Susan, the deputy director of the CIA, and Walter can't do anything to them. Of course, in addition to these real situations, the people in the project department also asked Jonathan about the situation of the superhuman virus medicine. In response to their inquiries, he only said 3 words. "I don't know. If you ask, you don't know, and if you ask again, you will start to curse." Have you ever seen someone put a time bomb in themselves? In fact, in order to add an insurance for himself, when Jonathan injected compound number 5 in the forest laboratory, he used the system space function to collect all the remaining 15 superhuman virus medicines. Although these medicines are extremely threatening to the current self, they are also an excellent weapon to check and balance other superhumans. The key lies in who uses them and how to use them. Don't you see that the human high level in the Resident Evil also have the T-virus, but they themselves are fine, and the ones who are in trouble are all outsiders. At this point, Jonathan chose to conceal it without hesitation. Therefore, he held his breath the whole time when using the lie detector. Don't forget that breath holding strengthens the mental and nerve functions. Jonathan's heart rate beats more steadily than the second hand on the wall. The people in the project department can't find any problems with him. As for Kate, she was poisoned and fell into a coma a long time ago, so it's hard to know. But, Edgar, you call this a physical examination? I've passed it, otherwise, I wouldn't be standing here, right? Jonathan spread his hands, almost writing, healthy, on his face. Really? The popular student who was still keen on clubbing and taking business orders half a year ago, actually took down a virus laboratory that was extremely dangerous to them without any warning. You can figure out that there is definitely something fishy with your toes. Edgar glanced at Jonathan meaningfully, put down the pen in his hand, and crossed his hands on his chin. Luke, I don't care what means you use or who you make deals with. I don't care. You are a smart man. The current 7-member team of the group has much less external influence than before. We urgently need new blood to drive the entire team. You and Kate have already joined the team. Whatever you want to do, how you want to do it, as long as it does not harm the interests of the group and does not damage the image of the group, then everything is allowed. Remember, we in Walter don't keep trash. It's okay to be a little stupid, but at least make some contributions. Do you understand? Hearing this, Jonathan subconsciously thought of the deep sea who was wearing a shit green open neck deep V-tight uniform, with a wretched face and a wise breath in his eyes. If it was this guy, then Edgar's words were too insightful. It was really stupid. Mr. Edgar, please wait and see. I really won't let him down. After all, Jonathan, the biggest goal is not to destroy the water group, but to assimilate the entire water group and finally turn it into his own industry. When I come back here, it will be like coming back to my own home. As for the future boss, it shouldn't be difficult to make room for him, right? Jonathan walked out of the office with a smile, and outside the office, his girlfriend Kate was waiting for him. Let's go, take office. Taking Kate's soft little hand, Jonathan walked into the elevator. Floor, Personnel Project Clothing Design Division. As soon as the elevator door opened, Ashley's iconic big nose face appeared in front of the two. And, with a slightly flattering and enthusiastic professional smile, the two people in front of them are the key figures personally emphasized by the unknown boss. It is possible that they are the illegitimate children of the other party or the children of a certain family. If you work hard for the leader, you may get a promotion. Thinking of this, Ashley said to the two of them, "Congratulations on joining the 7-man team. Next, I, Ashley, your manager, will help design your uniforms. May I ask if you have any personal ideas about the uniform design? In addition, each member of the 7-man team is called by a code name. Have you thought of your own title?" Jonathan looked at Kate first, and when he saw her shaking her head and saying that she had not thought about it yet, he spoke first. "I think the all-black tight-fitting robe is good. It can be slightly silver-plated, and some sharp patterns can be added to the waist. By the way, the cape can be made pure black on one side and dark red on the other." The uniform design provided by Jonathan is basically a one-to-one replica of the Snyder version of the black superhero, except that there is no unique logo design and the cape has 2 colors on both sides. There is no other reason. When he watched the Zack Snyder version of Justice League that year, he felt that the aesthetics of the black suit was particularly online. The whole body was all black with silver-plated flow patterns. It was full of power and directly brought the sense of oppression to the maximum. As for his own title, he awakened the immortality of cancer cells at the beginning, and as he continued to evolve through the heavens and the worlds, he would sooner or later become truly immortal. Why not call it No Ember? Kate herself did not have a particularly good idea, so after Jonathan's suggestion, she chose the CP-matched pure white suit. The author has something to say and there are AI pictures, and the protagonist can search for it yourself, there are a lot of them on the internet. Kate's title was given by herself, called Illusion. After providing the inspiration and body information to Ashley, she rushed to the costume design room in a hurry and put the two people's tasks first. In less than 15 minutes, Ashley ran over with 2 uniforms that were still warm from processing. "Ha, you two, the costumes are ready, you can put them on now. Also, I have just put your title information on the official website of the 7, and now the whole of America knows your names." Then what's next? After Ashley put the uniforms in Jonathan and Kate's hands, she turned the page of the document in her hand. She had just taken office for a short time and had not yet fully memorized the process of new members joining the team. She needed to look at the document manual to make arrangements. Oh, right, next is your induction speech. The helicopter has been prepared for you and can go at any time. The scene is a bit lively now. More than 30,000 people have gathered, and the road is no longer passable. We can only airdrop. So, you two, are you ready? In a brightly lit living room, two men were sitting in front of the TV, seemingly waiting for something. Butcher, Luke and Kate's inaugural speeches are about to start live. Do you want to come and watch? Huey grabbed the remote control and turned up the volume of the TV. This is just a disgusting show by those superhuman fools. It has been like this for more than 10 years, without any new ideas. Although I don't know what this son of a fool is planning. On the small bar in the kitchen, the bearded man was holding a cigarette, his eyes fixed on the mini computer screen in front of him, and he was dragging the mouse with one hand and sliding it continuously. Go home to see your daughter. Frankie, the fool, went to the movies and fell in love with Kimiko. This Dr. Parker is still like a dung beetle. I don't know where he is hiding. The stupid recruits sent by the CIA to wait yesterday morning lost him again. Seeing that Butcher couldn't get away, Huey looked at the lamplighter beside him again. At this time, the lamplighter's eyes were fixed on the TV screen and never moved away. If you look closely, you will find that the lamplighter's eyes are filled with tears and his expression is dull. Following the camera switch of the TV, he saw his statue standing in front of the School of Crime at Godokan University. He was so high-spirited back then, but now, okay. Huey was asking for trouble and looked back at the TV. Whoosh whoosh, a helicopter roared across the blue sky above Godokan University. The huge blades stirred the air, forming a strong cyclone, blowing the surrounding leaves and flowers into flight and swaying. In the helicopter, Jonathan protected Kate's waist and glanced at the bottom of the helicopter. It was a scene of huge crowds of people, and the enthusiasm of the people was like a burning flame, setting off the entire venue with incomparable heat. Wu Jin. It's Wu Jin. Ah, it's Huan Xin. The two of them are here together. They are a natural couple. I'm going to die. The helicopter slowly descended, and the wind from the propeller swept the ground, but it did not dampen the enthusiasm of the audience. The audience stretched their necks, staring at the door of the helicopter, waving bright flags and slogans in their hands, and shouting the code name of Jonathan and Kate's 7-man team. Boom! When Jonathan and Kate walked out of the door and raised their hands, the cheers resounded like thunder, and the atmosphere on the scene was so warm that it seemed to ignite the whole world. Led by Ashley, Jonathan and Kate walked hand in hand steadily to the stage and picked up the microphone. Everyone, thank you for coming here today. As soon as the words fell, the cheers from the audience instantly increased by several decibels, and the crowd responded to Jonathan with even more enthusiastic shouts. Jonathan raised his hand and pressed it down, signaling everyone to be quiet, and the scene gradually quieted down. Everyone, we live in an era full of challenges and opportunities. The emergence of superhumans has made the world more diverse and exciting, but it has also brought fear and misunderstanding. Jonathan's eyes swept across the crowd in the audience, and everyone who met his eyes could feel the sincerity and determination of the Oscar-winning actor. However, I want to tell you that superhumans are also people. His voice became excited. We have the same emotions, dreams and desires as you. We will laugh, cry, fight for justice and stick to love. Then, Kate took over and said crisply, we, like you, long for peace, long to be understood and long to be loved. We are not monsters, not threats, we are part of this world. So, protecting superhumans is also a necessary guarantee to protect ordinary people. Jonathan emphasized again, because we live under the same sky and breathe the same air, our fate is closely linked. When superhumans are threatened, the lives of ordinary people will also be affected, and when ordinary people are in danger, superhumans will not hesitate to lend a hand. We face difficulties together, meet challenges together, and create the future together. Kate's voice was full of passion. We believe that as long as we unite as one, nothing is invincible. Kate and Jonathan's acting is very realistic. Even Huey in front of the TV felt his body boiling, not to mention the audience who were on the scene. The divine light directly infuses the heart. Once, we faced the conspiracy of Principal Shetty. It was a battle of life and death. But it was precisely because we firmly believed in justice and believed that our power could protect everything we cherish that we finally crushed his evil plan. Quote. And today, standing here, we want to declare to the world that we will not retreat, we will not be afraid. Kate's voice was sonorous and powerful. I am Woojin. I am Wanxin. We will use our power to protect every life and protect this beautiful world. Quote. The scene erupted with thunderous applause and cheers again, and people's enthusiasm was like surging waves, one after another. The aftermath of the live speech also lasted for several days before gradually declining. 3 days later, the 7-man team captain handover ceremony was simplified and held in a small conference room. The attendees included his girlfriend Kate, Shanghai who was temporarily pulled back from Ohio, Xingguang who had not yet found the gecko due to plot changes, and an honest man Xuanzi. As for Queen Maeve, she chose to leave because she received a call from her girlfriend. The remaining locomotive was still towing an abandoned train at the train station for rehabilitation training. In addition to these people, Edgar also opened a video to participate in this meeting. And Homelander, one of the protagonists of the alternate captain, did not come to the scene at this time. What's going on? Mary, deputy manager of the Our Project department, turned up her sleeves and looked at her watch. It's been 15 minutes since the meeting started. Why hasn't Homelander come yet? Do you want to ask Ashley? Quote. Mary's assistant Daisy asked cautiously in a low voice. Forget it, wait slowly, that Homelander is not an easy boss to serve. Mary stood there and closed her eyes in annoyance. At this time, on the 30th floor, in Homelander's own lounge. Boom, bang, Homelander, with side-backed blonde hair, a hideous face, and wearing a blue tights with white stripes and 5 stars, was smashing the items in the room indiscriminately. The TV, computer, and sofa were either shattered or shot through by his burning laser vision into several large holes with charred and white smoke. Why, Ashley, tell me, why did this son of a fool become the captain of the Super 7? Speak, I want you to give me an explanation. Why can that idiot Luke replace me? Quote. Homelander roared. Seeing Homelander's hideous face, Ashley's heart tightened suddenly, and she said with trembling. Homelander, this is Mr. Edgar's decision. I have no right to interfere, I can only obey. Quote. Obey. I have been in the Super 7 for so long and have made great contributions to the group. Why should I be replaced by a newcomer? Seeing this, Ashley could only say helplessly. Homelander, Woojin and Wanxin, the two of them smashed the conspiracy to create the superhuman virus. So, their current social support rate is almost as high as 90%. Quote. With newcomers with high support rates joining the 7 will absorb more and more benefits for the group. Quote. Benefits. Can't I bring benefits? Homelander's eyes were red, and he retorted excitedly. Hey, Homelander, calm down. If you think about it this way, the position of the captain of the 7 can be changed at this time, then the future will definitely change. Maybe, soon their support rate will not be as high as yours. Quote. Ashley said hurriedly. Looking at the eyes of the Homelander that were about to shoot lasers, she even felt her pants a little wet. However, the captain's handover ceremony has been over for 20 minutes, and Mr. Edgar has also opened a video to attend the meeting. If I don't go, Mr. Edgar may be unhappy. Ah, annoying. Edgar, why is it Edgar again? When Madeline was here, there weren't so many things. Although Homelander was extremely vain, he didn't dare to be casual in front of the group leader. You know, his reputation is in the hands of the other party. If he really makes the other party unhappy, he will be in real danger. Thinking of this, the reluctant Homelander pushed open the door of the lounge and walked towards the meeting room on the 13th floor with a gloomy face. Before leaving, he didn't forget to explain to Ashley. Ashley, check the information of these 2 fools for me. They must be handed over to me before tomorrow night. Bang! The door of the conference room was slammed open. I didn't expect you all to be here. With his hands behind his back and crow's feet extending to his temples, Homelander walked in with a fake smile and came to the center of the conference room. Just in front of Jonathan and Kate. Hey, you two, your clothes are nice. Especially, your black uniform. It's a bit like me. Homelander smiled hypocritically. His eyes only stayed on the two of them for less than 2 seconds before he quickly glanced away and turned his head to the electronic screen in the center of the conference room, which Edgar used for video conferencing. Mr. Edgar, I heard that there is a captain rotation meeting today. I'm not late. Well, so, what should I do? It's very simple, Homelander, you just need to hand the captain's armband on the table to Woojin, and then take a photo together. Photo. Hearing this, Homelander's skilled fake smile suddenly became stiff, and his whole face was full of gloom. Yes, take a group photo. The captain's change ceremony should be specially recorded, and then the photo should be uploaded to the official website of the 7 team to be made into a web poster. Homelander, do you have any opinions? On the electronic screen, Edgar's expression did not change at all. The calm eyes without any emotional fluctuations made Homelander's originally suppressed nerves begin to jump. Edgar. Homelander twitched his eyes violently, suppressing the emotions that were about to erupt. He first opened his hands and put on a generous smile. Then, he came to the conference table, picked up the captain's armband, and walked in front of Jonathan. Congratulations, newcomer. As a senior, I am very proud of you, but I can tell you seriously that being a captain is not that easy, and... Then, Homelander put the armband on Jonathan's palm with one hand, then leaned forward and whispered to Jonathan with gritted teeth. Not just anyone can be the captain. Listen, I don't care what dirty tricks you used to get here, and don't think you can order me around just because you are the captain of the 7-man team. You are not qualified. And I can tell you very clearly that if you want to do this, you will become a bunch of disgusting minced meat floating on the Atlantic Ocean tomorrow. Get it? After that, Homelander restrained his gnashing teeth, and then returned to his usual fake smile with a normal expression. He still had one hand left, and he placed it on Jonathan's shoulder and patted it symbolically. Keep up the good work and don't let us down. After saying that, Homelander took his other hand away from Jonathan's hand, revealing his palm, which had been squeezed into a shapeless iron block. Oh, sorry, I was a little too strong, you don't mind, do you? Homelander looked at the armband, covered his mouth exaggeratedly, and made a bluffing expression of, I didn't mean it. Jonathan was not angry when he saw Azu performing hard, but smiled gently. It's okay, there are many such armbands. But as a junior, I only know one thing. The person in charge of the 7 seems to be Mr. Edgar, Sr., if you have any suggestions, you can give him feedback. Jonathan was telling the truth. As the executive president of the Water Group, Edgar basically has to approve and handle the affairs of the entire company, especially the 7, a pseudo-superhero organization that mainly makes profits. To put it bluntly, as long as Edgar is willing, Homelander will be completely hidden and banned with just one order. Why? Because Azu, who grew up in the water laboratory, was guided to create a weakness for checks and balances since childhood, and this weakness is the recognition of the world and the vanity that he wants to get by any means. It can be said that if Homelander is hidden and banned, it is no different from killing him. At that time, he was not only mentally ill, but also did not experience the subsequent blackening process. It is too easy to control him. Can you say it again? Homelander originally wanted to turn around and leave, but he didn't expect Jonathan to be so ignorant and dare to say such words to him. Tell me, do you want to die? Then his eyes began to turn red, veins bulged, and the whole person was about to fall into a hideous state of madness. At this moment, Edgar's voice came from the electronic screen behind the motherland. Actually, he is right. If you have any opinions, you can come to my office directly. Don't forget, the captain rotates. In addition to the group photo, the ceremony also took photos of the meeting process. Quote. Edgar's words directly caught the weakness of the Homelander, making it difficult for him to get angry. If these photos are really leaked, then his support rate will definitely drop by dozens of percentage points. Just wait for me. Homelander glared at Jonathan fiercely, then honestly cooperated to complete the subsequent handover process, and then took photos. After the meeting, Homelander quickly disappeared from the scene, and went upstairs to question Edgar. Bang! Homelander walked into Edgar's president's office with a gloomy face and slammed the door. Edgar, I have contributed so much to the group, and you actually let a newcomer replace me. I need an explanation. Homelander supported his hands on the desk, leaned forward, and stared at Edgar. Seeing this, Edgar took off his glasses calmly, folded them, and said slowly. Homelander, calm down, don't break my desk. Quote, you run a superhero company, but you never think about caring about your superheroes, right? For example, let me think about it, letting a piece of trash just get stuffed into the 7. Homelander sneered. Oh, so you think you should approve the recruitment of Woojin? Why not? I approved the participation of the other members. I am the leader of the 7. I respect every member of the Super 7. But I don't think you respect me much. No, even Madeline doesn't dare to play this trick on me. As he spoke, Homelander's expression began to become more and more ferocious. You obviously know how important you are to the other people in VOD group. No, Edgar, speaking of which, my contract expires at the end of this year. Maybe it's time for me to do something else. How do you think your shareholders will feel about this? Quote, hearing the seemingly determined tone of his countryman, Edgar was a little amused. He walked to the white wall, under a huge portrait of a man. Hee, how much do you know about Frederick Walter? What, Frederick, our respected founder, is not the profit-seeking nonsense that I brainwashed those shareholders with, but his true story. Oh, tell me about it. He obtained a doctorate in Munich, and his genetics attainments were far ahead of his time. He was such a young man with a promising future. Hitler appointed him as the chief physician of the Dachau concentration camp in 1939, and provided him with existing human bodies to test the initial version of compound number 5. Of course, we strongly condemn his actions. In 1944, he realized that the war situation had changed and fled to the Allies. When Oppenheimer was still studying the atomic bomb, Dr. Walter had already used the clinically tested compound number 5. Quote, heroes like Soldier Boy slaughtered batches of Germans, and Roosevelt pardoned him. Later, he became as well known as Disney and Edison. Well, this story is wonderful, although it has some admonitions. But I don't understand the point you are making, Edgar. Edgar was silent for a while, and then responded to the motherland contemptuously. The point is, if you only think we are a superhero company, then you are wrong. We are actually a pharmaceutical company. And you are not our most valuable asset. The most valuable is the secret formula we use to make compound number 5, but that was leaked to the world by you, a giant baby. I don't know what you are talking about. Then let me remind you that you secretly supplied compound number 5 to terrorists all over the world in order to allow you and your teammates to enter the national defense system. But the price may be to destroy the entire company. Quote, Edgar's eyes made Homelander shudder. I don't like your tone, sir. You are just a product, so you know how to position yourself. Okay, I'm still busy, so I won't send it. Homelander couldn't gain an advantage, and the bunch of harsh words he had prepared were useless. He could only glare at Edgar fiercely, turn around and slam the door. Night. He came to the roof alone, looking at the full moon above his head, and the anger and frustration in his heart reached the peak. I can do whatever I want, and no one can control me. Homelander's eyes glowed red, and he suppressed his roar at the sky until he leaned back and roared, calm. After the incident, his eyes turned cold and a sinister smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. That's right, a superhuman terrorist, a newcomer, this is enough for you to drink a pot. Half a week has passed since the captain succession ceremony of the 7 team. During this half week, Jonathan and Kate have not been idle. They have been running around America to give speeches, attracting a lot of popularity and traffic, and keeping it stable. During this period, their hot search terms have been on the top 10 list for a long time, and the surrounding toys are sold out. From 80-year-old women to newborn babies, they all know that there is such a super English CP. And this is just the first step for Jonathan to come to the 7 team, to gain a foothold. You know, if you want to survive perfectly in the 7 team, the necessary public support rate is absolutely indispensable. As long as there is support, there will be traffic, and the status among the people will be more stable. However, in addition to external support, internal influence is also very important. How to define this internal influence? This brings us to the assimilation plan that Jonathan will implement after joining the 7. What is the most valuable thing in The Boys? It is compound number 5, not some funny superhero. And what is the perfect way to get compound number 5? Yes, become a member of the 7, or even the leader of the 7. After success, you will get partial management rights of compound No. 5. So, with this part of the authority, you should take full control of it and look for opportunities to monopolize these compound number 5. No, no, no. In fact, only perfect control and having all management rights are the real means. Compared to sneaky little moves, let the entire VOD group operate around you and produce compound number 5 continuously. Isn't this good? Therefore, Jonathan wants to further expand his ambitions, infiltrate his influence into all aspects of VOD company, and finally complete the behind-the-scenes operation of the code still being there and the core being replaced. As it happens, Jonathan, who became the captain of the 7, has the ability to carry out influential reforms from top to bottom. What is top? Of course, it starts from the inside of the 7. The 7 lighthouse, the women's bathroom. Maeve, what do you think of this new captain? In front of the sink, Starlight Ann, who had just finished using the toilet, ran into Queen Maeve, who had just come in and was washing her hands, and asked. There was a lot of publicity about the new captain and Kate outside. She could see the posters stuffed in front of her house every day when she got home from get off work. She had been curious about this for a long time. Regarding the position of captain, Homelander has been the captain for a long time, and this person, who happened to be Homelander's former CP, might have some special insights on this. It's hard to say, Xinguang. You know, most of the 7 members recruited by Walter are mixed, and most of them are targeting interests and traffic. Except for you and me, let's count Xuan's. Look at the invisible man who was hiding in the women's bathroom and peeping all day, or even Shanghai. At this point, Queen Maeve paused and looked at Xinguang meaningfully. Ah, when Xinguang heard the word, deep sea, some extremely bad memories seemed to flash through his mind. His throat felt sweet and he subconsciously wanted to vomit. So, instead of hoping that he really becomes what the outside propaganda says, it's better to expect that he won't become a scumbag as arrogant and conceited as the motherland. Queen Maeve said lightly. Then, what about his proposal to reorganize the 7? He is the captain, so he naturally has the power to manage the team members. As for whether it is a show of force or a dictatorship like the Homelanders, it is unknown. Let's keep watching. Anyway, we have long been trapped in the deep pool of the 7 and it is difficult to get out. What do you think, Starlight? After saying that, Queen Maeve shook her hand, grabbed her changed combat uniform and walked out of the bathroom, leaving Starlight alone frowning and standing there thinking thoughtfully. In the evening, Huey and Starlight came to a river for a walk. Today is the first official date since Huey was released from the wanted list. But, the atmosphere at this time is not as relaxed as imagined. Instead, both of them have a gloomy face, and I don't know what they are thinking about. Huey, the clues from Gecko are gone. I don't know why, but since a few days ago, the sources of information about compound number 5 have been cut off, and all the researchers involved have been urgently recalled. Including the experimenter Gecko you told me about. Annie, it's okay, let's see if there is any chance and look for other channels. No, Huey, the situation this time is more serious. There is almost no information about compound number 5. Quote, if I continue to investigate, I will soon be suspected of being a traitor. Huey, what do you think? Is all this we have done worth it? Now the new captain has taken office, you know, his slogans are not in vain. The oaths he said have indeed been implemented within the group. In fact, I feel that the situation is slowly changing. Huey heard this, and suddenly recalled the scene of Jonathan's speech in front of the White Temple a few days ago. That day, colorful flags were flying, and tens of thousands of people cheered and shouted, and the sound was deafening. As the new captain, Jonathan actually revealed some of the darkness within the VOD group and showed the ugly faces of some superhumans to the masses. Originally, this should have caused the masses to resist indignation, but Jonathan's oath of eliminating ugliness and rectifying the 7 directly reversed the public's emotions. This operation, while lowering the status of the untouchable superhumans, also separated them from ordinary people. The intimacy value is maxed out. In the final analysis, from the first call to now, Huey's impression of Jonathan is not bad, and he even has a faint expectation deep in his heart. Although he doesn't know what this expectation is, as he continues to pay attention to Jonathan, a certain desire in his heart becomes stronger. At this time, he recalled what Jonathan said to him on the phone but didn't tell Butcher. Huey, I actually admire you very much. As an ordinary person, you can make such a great determination to take revenge. If you want to seek help in the future, you can come to me. Quote. Huey had only felt the feeling of being recognized by others in Starlight so far, but Jonathan, as a superhuman, would pay attention to ordinary people like him. Don't talk about conspiracy nonsense. He is a pure ordinary person who changed his career halfway, and he is definitely a loser. If any superhuman plots against him, Huey will be happy to thank others for looking up to him. Besides, who wants to be an insignificant waste forever? Huey glanced at Anne and secretly competed in his heart. Just sleeping in bed is always better than his girlfriend. He is always exhausted, while the other party is still full of energy. Where should his face as a man be placed? No, this can't go on. Thinking of this, Huey seemed to have made up his mind, and his eyes staring at Anne became firm. Hey, Huey, what do you want to do? We are still outside. Quote. In Ohio, an exclusive private room in a high-end Western restaurant. In the private room, the lights are colorful and soft, and the blues music is melodious. On the table, there are a variety of luxurious dishes, including Kobe Wagyu beef, white truffle risotto, gold foil matsutake, but there is no seafood. Hee, Wu Jin, are you satisfied with the environment here? If the dishes are not enough, I can order more, and I also brought a bottle of Henry IV today, I can open it now. Under the tights of the color of forgiveness, Shenhai, who looked restrained and cramped, rubbed his hands nervously, and then said to Jonathan in the most flattering tone with a slightly obscene smile. Today, first, we welcome the captain to give a speech in Ohio and welcome him, and second, I want to get in touch with you more and learn more skills. Quote. Looking at the wretched deep sea in front of him, Jonathan was a little amused. This funny guy who has always played a comedic role in the original book is actually not a bad guy. At most, he is a little vain, likes to do bad things with good intentions, and is a little stupid. Except for letting Starlight eat bananas at the beginning, rescuing ocean friends but failing every time, and killing his octopus girlfriend in the 4th season, this guy really didn't do anything bad. The deep sea's ability is to communicate with marine life, and has abilities similar to DC Aquaman such as underwater survival and extreme swimming. But these are completely incompatible with mainstream abilities, so he is usually in the 7-man team, which is considered to be a group of people who lack a sense of existence. Even the locomotive has a higher sense of existence than him. Therefore, he lacks a sense of security in his heart and wants to gain respect and admiration from others through some behaviors, but he did the above-mentioned unbelievable behavior unexpectedly. Later, he was exiled to Ohio because of the scandal of feeding Starlight a banana, and he fell into a trough. After realizing that he was abandoned by the water company, he shaved all the hair on his body. But he still has hair now. Don't be so polite, Shanghai, we are all members of the 7 team. But I think this time, you are not just here to eat with me, right? You know, even the people of his country don't have this treatment. After Jonathan exposed his purpose, Shanghai was embarrassed and fell into a state of bewilderment. He had no choice but to bite the bullet and pour Jonathan a glass of wine, then sat down and smiled awkwardly. Actually, Captain, I want to return to the 7-man team. Return to the 7. Shanghai, I don't quite understand what you mean. Aren't you staying well in the team now? Actually, Captain, I feel that I have been marginalized by the group. Since the scandal, I have been sent here and can only do commercial performances and sell peripherals every day. In the whole of Ohio, except for my ocean friends, there is basically no one I know. I also heard you say that you want to reorganize the 7, so I thought about seeing if there is any chance to remedy it. Shanghai scratched his head, his face full of frustration, then he raised his head and said in an almost pleading tone. Captain, I'm serious. If I can really return to the 7, I can give anything. Shanghai recalled that he was full of vigor and vitality when he joined the 7. He has released several solo movies in a row, and his public support rate once reached 64%. But since the scandal, he has been spurned by the female group, and teenagers and men with a wider audience are gradually attracted by leaders like Homelander, and the previous traffic is only 1/10 of what it used to be. Originally, He thought he would no longer have the opportunity to make a comeback, but Jonathan's joining him brought him new hope. He knew that if he didn't seize this opportunity, he would really be a dead fish in this barren Ohio for the rest of his life. Deep Sea, you have to know that it is extremely difficult to restore your reputation. If you really want to return to the Seven, then I would like to ask, what is the basis for being a member of the Seven again? Also, it seems that I don't lack anything now. What can you give me? Why should I help you? Jonathan kept knocking his knuckles on the table, looking at the frowning Deep Sea with interest, wanting to see his reaction. In fact, there is nothing wrong with this sentence. No one in this world will help you for no reason. If you are not moved by enough interests, what can you get by helping? What's more, this is not a peaceful and harmonious real society, but a dark and cruel black robe world. Although the positioning of the character of Shanghai is very miserable, if you follow the original plot, Shanghai will still be found by the Gathering Church in the future, and he will be helped to return to the Seven team by recruiting the locomotive. So, whether he helps or not, Shanghai can still return to the Seven team after all. It just depends on the time and whether the chips that Shanghai can give can impress Jonathan. Sitting on the stool, Shanghai pressed his head with both hands, and the whole person fell into a state of struggle between heaven and man. The wretched face changed constantly and finally stopped from looking up. Captain, what if I say, I have a videotape recording the Homelander plane incident? Videotape. Jonathan remembered that after the Homelander plane crashed, he sent Shanghai to the waters over there to find the black box recording the plane crash process and wanted to destroy it. After receiving the order, Shanghai searched the crash site but did not find the black box left by the plane. Instead, he found a videotape that recorded the whole process of the Homelander's crime. Later, Shanghai did not bring it to Homelander as it was, but kept it in mind and secretly restored the video inside as a life-saving backup. That's when it came in handy. So, is this videotape useful to him? Jonathan's answer is, useful. You know, with Jonathan's current ability, he can only be ranked in the second echelon of the Black Robe world at most, and above him, Homelander, Storm, Soldier Boy and other capable people, even any one of them can easily control Jonathan. At this stage, he really can't beat him. So, when he came to this world to designate a plan, Jonathan planned to go behind the scenes, instead of being a reckless man who would confront anyone and take advantage of any opportunity. Now, with this videotape of Deep Sea and several tubes of superhuman human virus medicine in his hand, it can be said that he already has 2 backup weapons. Moreover, compared with the latter, which is more likely to cause backlash, the former is obviously much more stable. After all, the Azu people live their whole lives to earn a name and power, just to find the meaning of their existence, and it is precisely such weaknesses that are the easiest to control. No wonder Walter is so poor Homelander. It is obvious that he is fearless. Thinking of this, Jonathan joked to Deep Sea with some evil taste. Deep Sea, you told me these contents, aren't you afraid that I will tell Homelander? You know, although I am the new captain, but I still keep in touch with my countrymen on a daily basis. Quote, this is my pledge of allegiance. I have nothing now, so I can only gamble. I even consulted an astrologer before the bet. Deep Sea was still inevitably nervous despite saying this, and cold sweat was faintly seeping out of his forehead. Moreover, with the captain's proposal to rectify the 7-man team, since you can say such a thing, then you will not sit idly by and watch such atrocities. Yo, also learn to flatter. Deep Sea, although he is a lot of fools, is sometimes a little smart. This kind of person is the easiest to control. If he becomes a lackey under his own command in the future, he will be considered the more obedient type. However, after backstabbing my countrymen, Deep Sea may backstab others in the future, so we still have to be careful. Do you really think so? What if I have ulterior motives? Quote, okay, since you trust me and have given me your loyalty, I won't be stingy. I can help you join the 7-member team, but from now on, you have to give up all your bad habits and ensure that your personality is not polluted. Quote, Jonathan felt sick when he thought that Shanghai's orientation was an octopus. Who can stand a sticky, indescribable thing lying on you? At that time, if such a dried octopus was left by his side, Jonathan might not even be able to eat. If he really can't quit, he will just go to the evil god world and throw him to play with Cthulhu. Don't doubt the authenticity of this. You can do it if you are disgusted. After hearing this, Shanhai was relieved instantly. He became extremely excited, and he became more dedicated to entertaining Jonathan. This was one of the few times that Shanhai was recognized. He thanked Jonathan from the bottom of his heart. So in the next few days, he took Jonathan to the ocean to swim and introduced his ocean friends to Jonathan. Jonathan has not relaxed much since he came to the Black Robe world, and he is happy to take a good rest during this period and appreciate it by the way. Take a look at the ocean world, and get familiar with Shanhai at the same time, so as to lay an emotional foundation for his future work trip. After leaving Ohio, Jonathan pointed out a direction for Shanhai to save him. Contact the Zhejiang Church. Then, unlike the original book, when Jonathan was giving speeches in various places before, the senior members of the Zhejiang Church came to him for commercial sponsorship and cooperation. In order to further expand his influence, Jonathan naturally chose to cooperate. Gradually, as the number of cooperations increased, he also became the core focus of the Zhejiang Church. Therefore, as long as Jonathan nodded, Shanhai could quickly find the Zhejiang Church, and the embarrassing situation would be successfully resolved according to the plot of the original book. With his own reminder and intervention this time, Shanhai should not get into trouble again, right? Metropolis, time, 9 o'clock in the evening. A black shadow flashed quickly in the night sky. Pop, quote, shua shua. The red boots landed in the dark basement, triggering a quick reaction from the insiders. All the guns were pointed at the person who was walking forward without a trace of fear in his eyes. Oh, Songchai, these toys are harmless to me. The man with blonde hair and a blue tights smiled evilly and moved the muzzle of the gun against his chest with his fingers. Homelander, what do you want to do? Hey, man, relax. I'm not here to catch you. Look, this beautiful little thing is glowing blue. This is compound number 5. As long as you inject it, you will have all kinds of superpowers like superhumans. The freaks over there in Patana were caused by you. Freak. No, that's the lucky one, my friend. I will share this opportunity with you. However, you must act according to my plan and create enough chaos. You should be good at this, right? Quote. There was a crazy light in the eyes of the Homelander. At the same time, Jonathan, who was modifying the poster in the water publicity department, suddenly received a private call. Hello. In the apartment, Huey locked himself in the room. With his heartbeat rising and falling, he took out his phone, found a contact on the dial pad, and clicked it. Hello. Hey, hello Luke. Remember me? I'm Huey. Jonathan was a little surprised when he heard the voice of the person coming. He didn't expect that the hidden chess he laid in his spare time would work so quickly. Oh, it's Huey. What's the matter? Does your team want me to help you with something? I'm busy now and may not be able to do it in a short time. No, Luke, actually. I want to ask you for help. Oh, Jonathan was instantly interested when he heard Huey's words on the other end of the phone and stood up from his chair. Then tell me, how do you want me to help you? It's like this, I want to find something meaningful for myself. Huey, is your Black Robe squad meaningless? You know, you have fought against many evil superhumans before, and even the Invisible Man was killed by you. No, in fact, I joined the Black Robe patrol team out of necessity. It can be said that my subjective will was not here. What I want more is to do what I want to do with my own abilities. I am just an ordinary person, not like Butcher, and Fran who have special abilities. So Huey, you want to prove yourself, right? But you have to know what my current identity is. I am the captain of the Super 7, and standing behind me is the entire VOT Corporation. Although I don't know why you joined the Super 7, I have a hunch that you are not that kind of superhuman villain. In fact, I don't think every superhuman is bad. At least, like Annie and Kimiko, or Queen Maeve, they are all living examples. There are only those superhumans who are full of evil and do all kinds of evil. After hearing Huey's words, Jonathan also fell into deep thought. Of course, he knew what the superhumans in the Black Robe world were like. There is black and white in this world. How good can a society where public opinion can be controlled by capital B? Even if all the bad guys are slaughtered, there will still be evil, and then infinite nesting dolls, and the ending will be the same. So, Jonathan began to consider the feasibility of forming a personal force. This world is a world that Jonathan is more familiar with and has greater development potential. If he does not find a better world in the future, then Jonathan will regard the Black Robe world as his base camp. Therefore, his control over this world must be strong enough, and he must have money, power, strength and power in place, so that it can develop to the point where it can deter all villains and eliminate all unstable factors. At this time, it is far from enough to rely on one person's strength. If he has to do everything himself, even if he has energy, he will be exhausted. The necessity of forming a force is now apparent. And didn't Edgar say before that as long as it doesn't affect the interests of the group, Jonathan can do anything? Thinking of this, Jonathan organized his words and said, "Huey, I do have a job suitable for you, but once you do this job, you may offend many people. Moreover, this job will involve many forces, and even come into contact with secrets from all walks of life. If you are not careful, it will cause a huge backlash." Luke, so, what is the main content of this job? The primary goal is to fight against those evil superhumans as you said, which is the same as the purpose of your team. And you don't have to worry, this job is under my name, and I will do whatever you want to do, but the premise is that some big things, all decisions must be approved by me. Quote, what is the specific form of operation of this job? I will have someone set up a company called Hydra, under my name, and in a short period of time, this company will be filled with a large number of security forces and some superhumans. At the same time, I will also recruit some researchers to enter the company to develop projects. As for the company's component structure, I will divide it into 9 departments, each of which will be led by a person in charge, also called Snake Leader. Huey, what you need to do is to help me run this company temporarily, and I can delegate power to you. At present, the company does not have any candidates for the heads of other departments. If there are no accidents, you will be the first person in charge. Quote, have you thought it through, Huey? Huey, who was confused, was originally wanting to find a new target. Now that he has a new choice, of course he chooses to agree. And speaking of danger, to be honest, no matter how dangerous it is it as dangerous as him licking blood on the edge of a knife all day long in the Black Robe team? Not only that, now Jonathan is the captain of the entire 7-man team. In fact, it is also an official and positive endorsement, which is much easier than staying in the Black Robe team and doing only shady things before. There is still someone to support the sky when it falls. Who doesn't love such a leader? Anyway, Huey said there is absolutely no problem. Great, I promise you. On the other end of the phone, the excited Huey made a strong elbow. Then, can members of our team also join? Yes, you can, if you can really convince Butcher. As for other members, as long as they want to join, you can choose to absorb them. The company can choose a large number of manpower to fill in the early development stage, but in the middle and late stages, it needs to be strictly selected to retain the appropriate ones. Tomorrow I will complete the procedures for setting up the company, and the rest of the content will be your responsibility. If you have any plans, you can tell me first. Okay. After hanging up the phone, Jonathan pinched his brows with his fingers, and began to think about the content supplements for the company's establishment. Now it's almost halfway to the time of return, and it will take about 2 months for him to return to the Marvel world. There is also Hydra in Marvel, and with Jonathan's current ability, it is enough to attract the attention of his cheap father Alexander, and then the resources of Hydra will gradually tilt to him. It can be said that Hydra will belong to Jonathan sooner or later, so doing a good job of organizational cultural publicity in the Black Robe world in advance will also facilitate the smooth connection between the two in the future. However, the true order and stability of Hydra all come from the 9-headed faith and the brainwashing technology invented by Dr. Zora. At this stage, Jonathan cannot get the brainwashing technology across the world. Then he can only help in a roundabout way, starting from the personal faith. It just so happens that the Church of all people is a relatively brainwashing existence in the Black Robe world. I wonder if borrowing some masters from there will have a miraculous effect. At this time, Jonathan thought of Shanghai. Since the cooperation was reached, Shanghai has been packing his luggage from Ohio and renting a house in Metropolis. He will cooperate from time to time. This buddy can be regarded as surrendering to me. Now the videotape of the Homelander is in my hands. He can't run away even if he wants to. Through him as a chess piece to contact the Church of all people, he can also find out the internal situation of it and see if there is any possibility of annexation. So Jonathan walked out of the 7-man tower and drove to the headquarters of the Church of all people. Chapter 31. In the evening, Jonathan drove his newly bought Maybach all the way to the Jijong Church. If it weren't for the health-preserving doctrine of this shitty church of 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., Jonathan could have dinner with Kate before going. However, Kate has been even busier than himself recently. Not long after joining the 7 team, she was dragged by Ashley to shoot 3 consecutive movies. I guess she is still on the set at this time. Forget it, let's go to the Jijong Church for dinner with Shanghai. In the car, Jonathan grabbed the steering wheel with one hand, yawned, and then drove the car into a small lane with few people, intending to take a shortcut. But what Jonathan didn't expect was that when the front of the car was about to hit the intersection, a strong energy wave hit his main driving seat directly. Who the hell is assassinating me? Jonathan reacted extremely quickly, instinctively turning the steering wheel almost instantly, and the tires made a sharp and piercing brake sound on the roadside, and stopped dangerously. I just picked up a new car the day before yesterday. I can bring it back to Marvel in the future. Let me see, which BYD wants to mess with me? Jonathan opened the car door with a gloomy face, stepped out of the car, his body tensed instantly, and his eyes glanced around unkindly. At this time, a group of figures filed out of the surrounding buildings. Jonathan looked at their clothes and equipment, which looked like those of the less formal local armed forces. But, are these people mentally ill? Assassination in the patrol territory of the motherland. A group of ordinary people with toy guns want to attack superhumans. Who gave them the courage and confidence? Fish Liang. Not to mention, Jonathan's official setting is mainly based on self-healing ability and physical fitness. Did these people think before they came? I am invincible. However, Jonathan soon found out the reason. Fortunately, his nerve reaction speed was fast enough to avoid another white laser beam attack. Seeing the direction of the attack, Jonathan was particularly shocked. Because this laser beam was actually shot out from Kun Kun, this group of people. There are 10 of them at most. If nothing unexpected happens, they are all superhumans. This makes sense. How could a group of ordinary people come to die? But you all have superpowers, and you are armed to the teeth. Do you have any shame? In this area patrolled by the Homelanders, there has been no reaction from the 5 minutes since the attack. According to the past, whenever there is an armed conflict or criminal activity, the Homelanders will arrive within 2 minutes and kill them with a few lasers. Now it seems, this group of daydream goblins is probably related to him. Good, Zubao, you have improved. You are playing dirty, right? Thinking of this, Jonathan regained his composure, looked at the group of terrorists warily, and then held his breath. Hold your breath and concentrate. 1 person fights 10 superhumans. Even if Yi Wen comes, they will have to kneel. We must go all out. This battle cannot be lost no matter what. If we lose, the reputation and prestige that the captain of the 7-man team has just stabilized will be directly destroyed. Then all Jonathan's calculations in the black robe world will be in vain and he will be finished. The battle started instantly. Boom, boom. The leader directly activated the motor mode. As long as Jonathan hides, his laser attack will follow. In addition to this person, there is another person whose ability is long-range blasting attack. As long as his feet touch the ground, a small explosion will occur on the ground with a horizontal and vertical radius of 5 meters. As for the remaining 8, they were all melee fighters. They were either covered with spikes or could spit out corrosive liquids. Jonathan, who had a strong physique and strong surface defense, could barely cope with these. However, a person's level is limited after all. Several terrorists had no rules at all and attacked Jonathan like a storm to fight with him. While dealing with the attacks, Jonathan also needed to avoid the long-range spells of the Laser Brother and the Mine Brother. Once he was distracted, these long-range attacks would hit him directly and severely injure him. Therefore, less than 2 minutes after the battle started, Jonathan was somewhat unable to resist the attack of this group of animals. Even if his nerves reacted quickly, his reaction processing branch was less than 5. He basically used his physical strength to deal with the attacks of the remaining 3 people. Moreover, as the high-density attacks came, his wounds continued to increase, and his skin was pierced by spikes, which made Jonathan grin in pain. This is not a solution. His self-healing ability is fast, but these injuries it is substantial, and once it happens, it will cause real-time effects. For example, now, his left arm bone was broken by a fierce blow. In the interval of self-healing ability, his left arm's counterattack is no longer effective, and he can only counterattack with his right hand. At this time, the fatal weakness of the self-healing ability is revealed. If it continues like this, weaknesses will continue to appear, and it will be even more difficult to find a breakthrough point at that time. Jonathan suddenly remembered the reverse transcription ability he awakened in the laboratory at that time. Although this ability does not have any substantial physical attack, it can conceptually reverse the sequence of the opponent's ability or other substances in a short time. At that time, within less than 5 seconds of contact with Kate, all the viruses in her body were converted into compound number 5, so, can this ability be used in actual combat? Thinking of this, Jonathan chose to practice it immediately. This ability is not passively triggered, but needs to be actively initiated, so Jonathan has never used it. Sizzle. It was the long thorn that invaded the skin again. Jonathan endured the pain and activated his ability. Reverse transcription. Transcription meme identification. Identification successful. Meme. Sharpening of the outer keratin. Reverse transcription effect. Internal organ counter-piercing. Transcribe. Extract. Internal organ counter-piercing. Can it be extracted? How come I don't know? Jonathan didn't have time to be shocked during the counterattack, and directly chose to transcribe, but did not extract. What a joke. People without some strange tendencies really don't dare to use this ability. Transcription successful. With the mechanical broadcast of the system in his mind, Jonathan's arm clearly felt a sense of relief. The long thorn that invaded the skin disappeared instantly. At this time, Jonathan turned his head and saw that the face of the long-thorn brother changed from a hideous smile to an extremely painful and twisted grimace. If you look closely, you can find that the place where he was originally covered with thorns suddenly turned into sunken holes, and his whole face turned as red as pig liver. If you are knowledgeable, you will know that this is a symptom of internal bleeding. Obviously, this internal organ counter-piercing is to turn the originally outward growing thorns into sunken ones, and then pierce the organs and internal tissues of the whole body one by one. If this guy is asked to drink some water now, just stand forward like this. An artificial fountain was born in this way. Of course, it is a pity that Jonathan did not see the artificial fountain. Then he can only find other fun things to watch. His eyes began to stare at other desperate people. Reverse transcription turns out there is such a way to play. How interesting. As the long thorn fell unconscious and was ruthlessly imploded, the other desperados began to look at each other in confusion. Ward fake. The long thorn was fine just now. Why did it suddenly become like this? Could it be that the opponent has some hidden special abilities? Thinking of this, the eyes of the few who originally wanted to continue to charge forward flashed a trace of vigilance, and they were all unsure, and then they slowed down, and became hesitant. Those thieves. They fought fiercely just now, why don't they fight anymore? Jonathan stared at these desperados, and in his heart he was thinking about which lucky guy to start with first. The effect brought by the reverse transcription explosion of the Longthorn's ability just now directly boosted his confidence. Look at the few people present, who can cause the same effect. It's you, acid sprayer. At this time, the desperados saw Jonathan standing still, and they all had an idea to join forces again to suppress Jonathan, and then let the indescribable Ji Guang brother behind to provide long-range fire coverage. Thinking of this, the acid sprayer standing in the front took the lead, puffed up his mouth like a frog, and the dark green corrosive liquid continued to accumulate in his transparent mouth. He rushed up and sprayed Jonathan again. Being the first to be hit, right, just in time. Jonathan's figure flashed, his steps changed, and he rushed towards the acid sprayer at a very fast speed. Seeing that Jonathan seemed to be well prepared, the acid sprayer hurriedly sprayed out the corrosive liquid that had been accumulated in his mouth for a long time. But his speed was too slow in Jonathan's eyes. With the nerve reaction speed under the effect of hold your breath and concentrate, Jonathan easily dodged the attack. Moreover, at the moment of approaching, Jonathan grabbed the forearm of the acid-spraying man with a grab, and his mind raced, and he activated the reverse transcription ability without hesitation. Transcription meme identification. Identification successful. Meme. Corrosive liquid vomiting. Reverse transcription effect. Corrosive liquid infiltration. Transcribe. Extract. Jonathan did not hesitate at all, and directly chose transcription instead of extraction. Are you kidding? Feeding yourself with strong acid? He is not made of glass. 3 seconds passed. Reverse transcription took effect immediately. Just as he was about to continue spitting acid, the acid-spraying man suddenly felt a burning sensation in his body, followed by a burning pain that covered his entire body like a needle. His body began to tremble violently, and the expression on his face changed from the previous hideousness to disbelief and despair. Ah! Ah! The air was filled with the shrill screams of the acid-spraying man. As he screamed, the corrosive liquid began to surge uncontrollably in his body, corroding from all parts of his body. His skin was the first to change. Tiny bulges began to appear on his seemingly normal skin, as if a foreign object was struggling to get out from under the skin. Then, the bulges began to crack, and the corrosive liquid seeped out, staining his skin into a mottled state. The liquid continued to penetrate inward and soon reached his internal organs. Gurgle, gurgle. His eyes widened, his abdomen began to swell, and then there was a muffled puff sound, and a stream of black liquid spurted directly from his mouth. Then, his body twitched a few times, and then he fell to the ground powerlessly, and there was no movement anymore. Although the acid spray is a large-scale AoE damage, and his hands are inevitably stained with some acid, don't forget that Jonathan's skin epidermis has been hardened by the concept of cancer cells. Not to mention, he also has a digestive ability derived from lysozyme bacteria, which is immune to all poisons both inside and outside the body. Jonathan shook off the disgusting acid on his body, looked at the corpse in front of him, and fell into deep thought. This directly scared the other desperate men and they dared not move. These 2 teammates died strangely as soon as they came on the court. The problem is that they can't even figure out the opponent's means. If you go up casually, you have to save your grandfather with the gourd baby. 1 kill 1 is accurate. But Jonathan doesn't think so. Hey, smart face. He has a good idea. Isn't the body of this acid sprayer, which is not yet completely cold, a ready-made large C4? Action is worse than thought. Jonathan picked up the body decisively and threw it directly in the direction of the desperate criminals. This sudden operation was unexpected by everyone. At this time, Brother Delay was staring at Jonathan's feet, ready to find an opportunity to launch a long-range blasting attack. Therefore, he did not expect that a body would flew towards him as a gift. When the thinker looked up, the corpse had already reached his head. At this time, Delay instinctively wanted to dodge backwards, but he was extremely stupid and ignored the triggering effect of his superpower. To retreat backwards, you must land on your feet. After landing, the detonation route is horizontal and straight. This means, he dodged the corpse, but not completely. People are going to die. Boom. The impact of the explosion directly blew up the corpse of the acid-spraying brother in an instant. The essence wrapped in the corpse splashed everywhere like a bursting watermelon, and directly covered Delay's face. Delay watched the essence spread on his body in horror. He tried to wipe it with his clothes, but it was too late. The corrosive liquid quickly eroded Delay's body, and his skin began to corrode, making a sizzling sound. After a while, the corrosive liquid penetrated into his cerebral cortex. With the sound of brains coming out of the pot, Brother Delay's head instantly melted into a mass of black matter. As expected, this guy has probably signed a contract with Mephisto. Very good. After solving this melee and a long range, Jonathan turned his attention to the indescribable Brother Laser. Brother Laser, who had been watching Jonathan, happened to look at Jonathan, and immediately shuddered, and then nervously shouted to several teammates next to him. Madong, Akshay, you guys come together, he should have this special effect in a one-on-one fight. When we collectively suppressed him just now, he didn't have this situation. But it is obvious that Brother Laser's teammates don't believe this statement. Their footsteps are changing, and they are slowly retreating to make room for Brother Laser. This directly confused Brother Laser, looking left and right, not knowing why. Seeing the confused expression on Brother Laser's face, one of his teammates was silent for a while, and then said to Brother Laser, "Bato, now only you have long-range ability, he only has melee ability, and can't touch you. Try to cover with long-range firepower, we will help you protect. Brother Laser Bardo thought about it carefully, and felt that this method was feasible, so he nodded and pulled his pants from his calves to his feet. He took a deep breath and moved his whole body back to accumulate strength. Woojin, die for me. Bang, bang, walla. The bright light ball gradually gathered from his key point into a ball. The next second, the light ball fired, bombarding Jonathan's place at a machine gun-like firing rate, stirring up sand and gravel all over the sky. At this time, countless straight white lasers flashed in the dusty battlefield. These straight lasers hit the asphalt road and directly splashed gravel, causing a pothole. He, let me see, where are you? Brother Ji Guang's eyes were darting around, constantly looking for Jonathan's exact location. In his opinion, no matter how weird Jonathan's abilities and strong self-healing ability, as long as his laser hits, the huge energy contained in it will directly melt the body into charcoal. If one shot doesn't work, then try a few more. When he was in the base camp, he tried to use lasers to test some captured hostages. Just one energy cannon could shoot through a person, and all the internal organs in the middle were burned open. So, as long as Jonathan was hit once, he could keep aiming along the heavy blow, continue to fire, and finally beat Jonathan until there was nothing left. At this time, Ji Guang's laser was sweeping in the direction Jonathan was constantly moving, and soon forced Jonathan behind the wall at the corner of the street. From a distance, the hardness of this wall seemed not enough to support the laser bombing baptism, and apart from this wall, there was no other shelter at this corner of the street. Therefore, Ji Guang put all his strength into increasing the firing frequency of the energy cannon again, and concentrated most of the firepower on the wall. Boom! The white light suddenly gathered, and the next second the wall was directly blown into pieces, splashing around, exposing Jonathan's hidden figure directly to the air. Behind the wall, under the effect of hold your breath and concentrate, Jonathan's sympathetic nerves were tense, his heartbeat accelerated instantly, and his brain processing speed was running to the extreme. As the heat from behind him continued to come, Jonathan kicked the ground and shot out at the fastest speed, and moved his position away at the moment when the laser was about to gather and detonate. However, the fierce impact and fragments of the aftermath of the explosion inevitably touched Jonathan's back, leaving a big scar. After get off work, Jonathan did not wear his uniform, but changed into a high-end handmade custom suit, but now, the back of the suit was directly broken into rags, and Jonathan's strong back was exposed. I bought a high-end suit worth $120,000, and you messed it up like this. You can only shoot lasers, right? Wait for me. Jonathan had a gloomy face, and thought to himself while dodging. He kept observing Brother Ji Guang's movements. As long as this guy stretched his butt back, it represented a charge, and after each charge, Jonathan calculated the launch time based on his average shooting speed to be about 2 seconds after the charge. Therefore, Jonathan relied on his calculated prediction and extremely sharp nerve reaction speed to easily dodge the attacks carefully prepared by Brother Ji Guang every time, which made Brother Ji Guang very angry. Why is this fool so hard to hit? Could it be that she was born by a monkey? Brother Ji Guang became more and more impatient, and his attacks became more and more crazy and chaotic, but he still couldn't hit Jonathan. This guy, why is he so difficult to deal with? Brother Ji Guang was very angry. He increased the energy output, and the laser beam became thicker and denser. This laser beam is different from the original laser cannon. It used to be discontinuous intermittent shooting, but now it is a continuous straight line output, and the damage of the entire laser is uniform. As long as Brother Ji Guang twists, the entire laser will change direction with the twist, and the laser firing speed is now uninterrupted, and its firing speed will become faster than before. At this time, if Jonathan still wanted to dodge by reaction as before, it would not be suitable for the current situation. In layman's terms, the difference between a point and a line is that, suppose you are a thief who sneaks into a rich man's house to steal property, but you have two paths. One is the laser array formed by laser point shooting. Even if the position of the laser point shooting keeps changing, there is still a chance of survival. The other is the laser beam net formed by laser beams. Even ordinary laser beams require hands and feet to try not to let the body parts touch them, not to mention the moving beam net. If Jonathan continues to dodge like this, he will be a fool. Only by finding a breakthrough as soon as possible can he have a chance to remedy the situation. At this time, Brother Ji Guang's first continuous beam attack paused briefly. Coincidentally, Jonathan, who had been staring, also quickly caught this opportunity. You are still alive this time. Jonathan lowered his body and ran towards Brother Ji Guang as fast as he could. And Brother Ji Guang didn't notice any other changes during the pause. At this time, Jonathan had come to a position less than 5 meters in front of him. Quick, suppress him. The melee desperados who were responsible for protecting Brother Ji Guang in front saw Jonathan running over, and their mood instantly became nervous. They stood in a horizontal row and directly blocked Brother Ji Guang's figure. 3.5 meters. The two desperados who had the ability to strengthen their physical strength and turn part of their bodies into hard weapons confronted each other, and were alert to take defensive positions. As long as Jonathan came, they would attack without hesitation. 2 meters, 1 meter. Just as they were tensing their nerves and waiting for Jonathan to attack, they were shocked to find that Jonathan did not attack them, but instead, actively, followed their attacks. Swish. Under the extremely puzzled and depressed eyes of the crowd, Jonathan faced the sharp knuckles and simply stabbed them in the chest. Then, he rushed forward with inertia and hit Kun Guang brother who had not yet reacted. Wow! Looking at the big hole in Jonathan's chest that was pierced from the front to the back, everyone was once again in a state of confusion. But only Jonathan knew why he did this. Reverse transcription, it can only be launched when touching the other party, so when others attack you, is it also considered a physical contact? What's more, in addition to the physically enhanced desperado, he directly encountered the weapon brother with a weaponized body and the chicken brother who ruined his high-end suit. It really kills two birds with one stone. Transcription meme identification in progress, identification successful. Mimetic. Body weaponization. Reverse transcription effect. Weapon failure restoration. Transcription meme identification in progress, identification successful. Mimetic. Partial body ionization energy laser emission. Reverse transcription effect. Whole body energy absorption and conversion. Transcription. Extraction. Of course. Extract directly. Entire body energy absorption and conversion. Extraction successful. At the moment when the mechanical sound rang in his mind, the light under Brother Laser suddenly disappeared, and at the same time, the expansion brought by the energy filling in his body became like a leaking balloon. Previously, Brother Laser thought that Jonathan's ability was similar to a kind of telekinesis control, directly controlling the external abilities of others in the opposite direction and then disintegrating from the inside. Not only that, he also believed that lasers belonged to the category of light and were in a non-materialized particle state, so he did not think that his laser beams could be controlled by Jonathan. But now it seems, Jonathan's strange ability is not what he thought at all, but a distortion of reaction. Brother Ji Guang looked at his body in horror. He found that he had no strength in his body now, as if all his strength had been drained away. What was even more uncomfortable was that he found that his dignity was gone. Looking at this, Jonathan showed an expression of sudden enlightenment. Oh, no wonder you like being a machine gun so much, you were so little before you got superpowers. Jonathan said, and a slap directly knocked out the hopeless laser brother. Then, Jonathan closed his eyes and began to feel the wonderful reaction brought by full body energy absorption. It was an unprecedented throbbing. With his body as the center, Jonathan could feel the free energy factors in the air, which could be light particles or heat dissipated from organisms. In the center, he was like a self-generated black hole. The factors and particles around him began to rotate continuously under the attraction of his physique, and turned into the purest energy to be absorbed by him. At the same time, after entering his body, these energies began to circulate in his limbs and bones in the form of small and large circulations, while warming all of Jonathan's cells. They also continuously dissipated heat. If you use an infrared thermal imaging sensor at this time, you will find that Jonathan is a mixture of orange and white, storing energy like a star, and there is also white on the surface of the body that is invisible to the naked eye, like the corona. P.S. High fever orange, white low fever dark, light purple. From a biological point of view, Jonathan is an efficient energy converter. When he absorbs energy, the cells and molecular structures in his body will convert the external energy into a form that he can use. The principle of this ability is similar to photosynthesis, but it is more complex and efficient. Jonathan suddenly thought of the vibranium suit in Black Panther and the Black Emperor in X-Men. If he guessed correctly, when the body collects energy to full value, it can still release it. As for how much energy is released, we have to try again. But now, it's a blessing in disguise. With this ability, at least I can walk sideways in the black robe world, but now. Jonathan pushed his hands hard on the ground, jumped up steadily, and stood up straight. He looked around and found that the few scoundrels who had fought with him before were almost dead. The remaining ones who could still move were the thin man whose body weaponization was cancelled, the strong man who strengthened his physical fitness, and 2 extras who had not fought much so far. Seeing that Jonathan could easily kill the strongest laser brother, these people were even more reluctant to fight with Jonathan. Who knows who will be turned into scum later? Thinking of this, several people changed their confrontation angles and gradually moved together. This guy is too difficult to deal with. With that weird ability, our attacks are basically ineffective against him. Brother Quality said, his voice trembling slightly. What should we do? We can't just sit there and wait for death. If the mission is not completed, we will be killed by the boss when we go back. Brother Weapon, who no longer has body weaponization, held the wall beside him, and fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. By the way, Dabin, how much equipment did you bring this time? Why don't we try to use hot weapons, maybe we can suppress him. If it doesn't work, we can escape to the next state and hide. As long as we can get out alive, there is still a chance. Someone suggested. Hearing this, everyone fell into a brief silence, and they weighed the feasibility of this proposal in their hearts. Finally, fear overcame hesitation, and they decided to take this risky approach. There is no way, if they really get stuck here, all the money they made in the gang in the first half of their lives will be wasted. As desperate criminals who have been licking blood on the edge of a knife for a long time, they understand the importance of staying alive the most. If they want to spend money, they have to have a life to spend it. Thinking of this, everyone's eyes burst into ferocity, and the weapon brother without ability responsible for going to the back to get all their guns, and then equipping them one by one. Submachine guns, machine guns, an RPG, and several high-explosive rounds. RPG again, and high-explosive rounds. Is this going to end? Jonathan stood opposite, and the corners of his mouth began to twitch. He was also bombed by an RPG when he crossed over before, and now he is going to be bombed again, and what's more, the opponent has high-explosive grenades. When he is in doubt, he will cover with firepower. As expected, there is no martial ethics in America's world. The intention of this group of idiots is actually very obvious, just to bombard them indiscriminately, lock the weakness of their own healing ability, make it difficult for them to fight back under the coverage of firepower, and finally be blown to ashes. Don't say. If Jonathan was blown to ashes before, he would probably be really dead. On the contrary, now, he can absorb energy from the air, which is enough to support his extreme self-healing. Moreover, before the absorbed energy reaches the threshold, he has no chance of breaking the defense. So, just fight and it's over. The attacks of several desperate men began quickly. In just a few seconds, bullets flew towards Jonathan like a rainstorm with a sharp whistle. Jonathan took a deep breath, did not brag, held his breath and turned on the breath-holding effect, then lowered his head and charged forward. When the first bullet approached Jonathan, his body automatically triggered the energy absorption effect. Instantly, the kinetic energy of the bullet was absorbed by Jonathan's body, and the bullet stopped the moment it touched his body, as if it was pinched by an invisible force. Then, more bullets flew, and they also stopped on Jonathan's body surface with the same effect as before. After that, as the body surface absorbed all the kinetic energy carried by the bullets fell from the air like decorations, and the crisp collision sound of bang bang sounded on the ground. As the kinetic energy of the bullets continued to be absorbed, Jonathan's body began to change. His body began to vibrate irregularly, and at the same time, the whole person's movements began to swing and flash back as if they were infinitely accelerated, and the speed was still accelerating until a series of afterimages appeared on his body. Shua! The air wave rose, Jonathan's eyes flashed with fluorescence, and the whole person returned to his body from thousands of afterimages. Due to the extreme evolution of cells brought about by his cancer cell concept, all his cells became rapidly swelled under the extreme catalysis of energy. Therefore, as the surrounding heat wave dissipated, his extremely strong muscles just blew open his suit and exposed it to the air. Under the bright red skin with dense veins, the shocking scene almost shocked the desperados present. At this time, Jonathan's figure had surged to 2.5 meters under the catalysis, and the black hair on his head extended to cover half of his face. The muscles that looked more frightening than the Hulk were vibrating slightly with his heartbeat. I have to cut my hair again when I go back. Through the gaps in his long hair, his eyes ignored the desperados holding guns, whose figures shrank rapidly in comparison. Quick, quick, are you holding the rocket for display? If you don't fight back, he'll rush over. No. Why is this thing stuck at this time? Hurry up. Waste brand weapon brother frequently looked back in the direction of Jonathan, while anxiously fiddling with the buckle of the rocket launcher, and even didn't notice that his fingernails were cut off by the protruding iron tip. Click. It was the sound of the jamming shell returning to its place. A satisfied and ferocious smile appeared on the face of weapon brother, and then he picked up the barrel of the rocket and pointed it in the direction of Jonathan. You guys, retreat quickly. I want to see if you can block this. After saying that, weapon brother squeezed the trigger hard. Whoosh! A low roar was heard, and a black light streaked through the sky. At this time, Jonathan in the distance also saw the rocket launched by the other side. In the past, Jonathan would have chosen to hide, but now, this kind of rocket launcher has been equipped with a heat-sensing tracking device. No matter where Jonathan hides, as long as the heat on his body is still there, it will be difficult for him to hide. What's more, the heat on his body has been absorbed by most of the kinetic energy and free factors in the air, and his body temperature has already soared to a height that normal people can't reach. So, he can only bear it. With the guaranteed self-healing ability and energy absorption, Jonathan is actually not afraid of such a blow, and it is more of a test of new abilities. This time, it won't be so easy for me to travel through time. Jonathan squinted his eyes. His 2-meter-tall figure stood upright, looking straight into the air. The rocket was just a small black dot at first, and then it left a long white tail in the air, and the fierce flame condensed at the tip of the bullet, making a sharp whistling sound. The sound came from far to near, getting louder and louder, like thunder, shaking people's eardrums. Jonathan's eyes were fixed on the warhead of the rocket. The air was distorted wherever it passed, forming circles of visible ripples. As the front air layer continued to compress, the overwhelming pressure covered Jonathan's position with an extreme threat of death. As the warhead was about to hit, its speed reached its limit. Jonathan quickly stood up, and his muscles tightened in an instant. Boom! With a deafening explosion, flames shot up into the sky. But surprisingly, the shock wave generated by the explosion did not appear. Instead, it merged with the flames like gelatin into an irregular transparent mass, and finally slowly shrank until it disappeared. Only the smoke and dust left on the ground could serve as evidence of the existence of the rocket. The smoke and dust dissipated, and Jonathan stood intact in the same place, without even a bit of gravel on the ground. The only change was the magma-like substance on Jonathan's body that gurgled and circulated like tassels. Standing here, Jonathan's 2-meter height seemed to have reached its limit. Instead, all the energy absorbed in his body was integrated into every cell, refining them and directly vaporizing the excess impurities. Therefore, what appeared in front of everyone was probably the most ideal form that Jonathan had achieved after absorbing energy at present. The body was refined and compressed to the extreme. Jonathan felt the energy in his body expanding like a furnace, and let out a low sigh. The warmth of soaking in volcanic hot springs spread all over his body, and his condition was better than ever. Not only that, he found that the energy absorbed in the body could be freely dispatched. As long as Jonathan wanted, he could release the energy in his body from any place. In other words, whether it was a chest cannon, a hand cannon or a laser eye, Jonathan could release it at will, but the energy in the body did not have a stable value, and the power of the shot was not controllable. But it's okay to test it. Thinking of this, Jonathan slowly raised his head and looked at the desperate people who were still in shock. At this time, their faces had long lost the previous luck and madness, but were filled with fear and despair. At this time, Jonathan did not hesitate at all. He concentrated his mind and gathered the energy in his body between his eyes. Then, the flames and water around his eyes began to gather together and concentrated on his forehead. In American comics, I always cosplay laser eyes. This time, I will cosplay Qingyuan Miaodao and Erlang Shansheng Zhenjin. In an instant, a brilliant light burst out from his forehead, like a sharp blood dagger cutting through the air, and went straight to those desperate people. Wherever the flames pass, the air was directly distorted by the burning, making a sizzling sound. The entire path of the ray was straight. The desperados had no time to react and were hit instantly. They didn't even have time to scream before they were washed away by the fireworks and turned into ashes. In just a moment, all the desperados were killed by Jonathan's flames. The battlefield suddenly fell into a dead silence, leaving only a few carbonized black piles hanging in place, with a few scattered glimmers of light. While Jonathan was killing the desperados, in an unknown underground basement in northern New York. "Hurry up, we don't have much time." Butcher took a flashlight and walked into the laboratory with the other members of the Black Robe team except Huey. "Do you know what this super weapon is? Wouldn't it be more fun to discover it yourself?" The light of the flashlight was waving randomly, and gradually, everyone focused their attention on a small glass isolation box. "Quick, there's a hamster here. Its name is Jamie. Hey, Jamie, how are you? Don't mess with it." Frankie was delighted to see the cute creature in front of him, and knocked on it, wanting to see how the little thing inside would react, but was stopped by the girl next to him. At this time, the golden bear hamster was also attracted by the three humans in front of him, and began to crawl to the glass, looking at them innocently. Bang, bang. Just when the hearts of several people were about to be melted by this cute creature, something strange happened, and the hamster inside began to fly around wildly, and the glass layer of the experimental box was cracked by the hamster's continuous impact. The hamster's rampage also sounded the alarm in the laboratory. Hey, hearing the alarm, the guards rushed in with guns and started a gunfight with the Black Robe gang. The members of the team had to separate and confront the guards one-on-one. Frankie and him were good at using firearms, so they were responsible for clearing the way for Kimiko and Butcher. But there were a lot of guards in this laboratory, with a direct ratio of 3-1 over the Black Robe team, and they were all wearing helmets and bulletproof vests, while the Black Robe team was only wearing simple clothes. Therefore, when the bullets were almost used up, the Black Robe team gradually fell into a disadvantage, and even Kimiko was in a state of exhaustion, and could only follow the team to retreat to a hidden place in the laboratory. Oi! Seeing the emergency, Butcher, who had been looking for items in front, suddenly threw the gun in his hand casually, then shook his body and said sarcastically to the guards. "Good evening, idiots." No, Butcher. Seeing Butcher giving up resistance and letting the firepower tilt to his body, who was hiding in the corner, widened her eyes and howled in disbelief. But the next second, his mouth suddenly became speechless as if he had been filled with shit. Shua shua. 2 golden lasers suddenly burst out from Butcher's eyes and hit the guards directly. How could those guards resist the damage caused by the laser eyes? They bled to the ground without even struggling. Some guards didn't even have time to dodge, and their entire bodies were cut off. Well, this should be censored. Following MM's incredible eyes, Butcher moved forward all the way, using golden rays to continuously clear the guards present. Finally, his golden laser hit a sealed iron box in the corner, breaking its structure directly. But what no one expected was that when the iron box was broken, there was actually a strong body paralyzed by an anesthesia ventilator hanging from the top. After sensing the fluctuations in the outside world, the strong body suddenly moved, one hand pinched the hypnotic mask locked on his face, and then pulled it open, revealing a face with a full beard on his chin and heroic eyebrows. Seeing this, MM's eyes widened even more. He moved back in disbelief, and after a long silence, he muttered to himself. "It's the soldier boy. He's still alive. The mask was removed, and the soldier boy was naked from the waist up, looking at the dark surroundings with confusion. In the sealed box, his long-term stiff body blocked his blood flow, and his feet were not adapted to the upright walking state for a while, so he could only tiptoe and move forward slowly. But even if his body adapted to the current state, the soldier boy's memory was still in a state of confusion, causing him to be forced into his own memory circuit, confusing all the real memories. Especially when he looked at the people in front of him, He always felt that there were lab coats on them, and the blurred faces were constantly overlapping. Experiment. The soldier boy's memory seemed to have triggered some key node, and the painful memories in his mind began to emerge. Also in this laboratory, he had experienced no less than 10,000 experiments, cutting machine cutting skin, Gatling gun directly washing mouth. As long as you can think of torture, it can be said that he has completely experienced it. Although he had a strong physique and it was difficult for these experiments to break his defense, the torment and pain he encountered were indelible marks. Therefore, he had a strong will for every experimenter here, or rather, everyone who appeared in the laboratory. Subconsciously, he classified them as a must-kill list. Thinking of this, the soldier boy lowered his head directly, and then all the energy in his body began to condense in his chest, his whole body swayed, and his consciousness was about to lose control at any time. Hee, calm down, we are not your enemy. Butcher looked at the soldier boy who was about to lose control, a little panicked, and tried to comfort him with a steady tone. We have no ill intentions, we just accidentally came here. But the soldier boy obviously hadn't come back to his senses yet. He subconsciously put his hand on his chest, and streams of orange energy began to swirl, emitting a dazzling light. Seeing this, Butcher and the others could only take care of their own lives first, and hurriedly retreated to avoid the sharp edge temporarily. However, the instantaneous firing speed of the soldier boy's chest cannon was obviously much faster than the speed of the running of several people. Get out of the way. Seeing the hot energy approaching from behind, and feeling a severe burning sensation on his back, Butcher shouted loudly. The next second, an extremely strong orange energy wave burst out from the soldier boy's chest, and the whole laboratory was directly shrouded in shock. Only Butcher, Frankie and Em ran in the front and just hid in the bunker to escape, while Kimiko, who was following behind, was not so lucky. She was directly hit by the shock wave generated by the energy and flew to the wall, breaking the wall directly, breaking both hands, and fainting on the ground with weakness. Seeing that Kimiko was injured, Frankie hurriedly ran up to check, holding Kimiko's head with both hands, shaking with anxiety, and repeatedly shouting Kimiko's name. In the past, Kimiko, who had the ability to heal herself, could recover in a short time even if her intestines burst. But now, Frankie was horrified to find that the wounds on Kimiko's body showed no signs of healing. Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and take Kimiko to the hospital. Frankie looked at the confused Em and the unreliable Butcher. His whole expression was full of anxiety and irritability. He quickly picked up Kimiko and ran out. Only Em and Butcher were left standing there. Butcher, you fool, tell me later. When did you become that superhuman? And this soldier boy? Em glared at Butcher fiercely, and hurriedly followed Frankie, holding the car keys and intending to drive them to the hospital. It's really in the way. Butcher spit on the ground fiercely, looked back at the house that was still emitting orange light, and his mind began to work frantically. He made a decision quickly, turned around and walked back to the laboratory. His figure gradually disappeared at the end of the devastated corridor. In front of the central church, the roar of a supercar came, and the tires turned a corner and drifted directly into the garage. Swish bang. The car door closed, and at this time, a blonde acquaintance was already standing at the exit passage inside the parking lot. The person was Shanghai, who had recently joined the central church. He did not wear his wretched tight uniform, but changed into a black fitted suit. This afternoon, he received a call from Jonathan and greeted him in the parking lot early. It was just that the waiting time was a bit long. Shanghai found something to eat casually, and there were still apple pie crumbs on the corners of his mouth. Hey, Jonathan, you're here. As a welcome, Deepsea's signature silly grin was used. Let's go in and talk. Jonathan pushed Deepsea's shoulder and walked into the church with ease. At this time, a woman with wavy blonde hair and elegant manners was sitting in the lobby of the reception room. When she saw Deepsea bringing people in, she hurriedly got up from her seat and said to Jonathan respectfully, "Hello, Mr. Woojin, I'm Cassandra, and I'm glad to meet you." Jonathan didn't react for a while, and his expression was a little confused. Deepsea, who had been following him, noticed Jonathan's expression and quickly explained. "Ah, Jonathan, this is it, this is my wife, Cassandra, by the way, she is also a member of the Gathering Church." Cassandra. Jonathan suddenly remembered that in the original book, Deepsea had such a wife in addition to half a dolphin and an octopus. Unfortunately, Shenhai wanted to have an unspeakable threesome with an aquatic animal, which caused his wife to run away. He also published a book to backstab Shenhai, which made him completely explode. Letting Cassandra marry Shenhai was the idea of the Zhejiang Church to help Shenhai return to the seven-man team. Previously, Shenhai had caused dissatisfaction among the majority of women in society because of insulting women. And the Zhejiang Church also started from this point, breaking the inherent cognition, letting Shenhai get married, creating a prodigal son personality for him, and creating a sweet husband-wife relationship for the outside world. This absorbs traffic for Shenhai, captures his gratitude, and can also promote the Zhejiang Church. It is a perfect strategy that kills three birds with one stone. At this time, as long as Shenhai cooperates step by step and does not consider the extramarital affair, it will be sooner or later for him to return to the seven-man team. I have to say that although the doctrine of the Zhejiang Church is a bit stupid, the plan is really amazing. But to capture the heart of the deep sea, I guess these pyramid scheme leaders don't know that the heart of the deep sea has always been on their side. Thinking of this, Jonathan nodded to Cassandra, shook her hand politely, and walked inside. Jonathan and Shenhai continued to walk into the church, and along the way, Jonathan's thoughts were turning rapidly. He was thinking about the influence and role that the Zhejiang Church could bring to his newly established Hydra forces. In fact, both of them seem to be organizations with religious beliefs, but the team currently formed only has one Huey. In recent days, he has also used funds to poach people from various newspapers and security companies, and has also recruited a lot of people. However, the organization's program and brainwashing methods are basically unable to cover all members within the organization in the initial stage. If you really want to cultivate diehards, you must spend a lot of time and energy to find orphans, or those who have lost hope in life, and then start from childhood, from the weaknesses, and root faith. And in this world, faith is a small number after all. Religious organizations like the Zhejiang Church are unique in the black robe world. But it has been able to survive for so long, and it is obvious that there are still many experiences that can be learned plagiarized. Moreover, when Jonathan came before, he was always a guest outside and never visited the inside. Jonathan walked and observed the surrounding environment. The decoration inside the church was luxurious and solemn, revealing a mysterious atmosphere everywhere. Various religious portraits and slogans were hung on the walls. Soon, the two came to a spacious conference room, which was already full of senior church officials. Under the gaze of everyone, Jonathan slowly walked to the main seat at the conference table and sat down. Shenhai stood beside him, still with that iconic obscene smirk on his face. "Mr. Wujin, long time no see." The church leader narrowed his eyes and smiled a commercial and kind fake smile. "So, what did Mr. Wujin want to talk to us about today?" Jonathan glanced at Shenhai, and seeing that he was still laughing, he pressed his forehead speechlessly and said, "Actually, I am somewhat interested in your church's doctrine. I have been in business cooperation before, and I haven't learned much about it. We, the Zhejiang Church, have always been committed to spreading truth and justice and working for the future of mankind. Mr. Wujin, we are naturally very happy that you are interested in our doctrine. Even the words have the taste of brainwashing. So what do we need to do? I want to know." Just then, the door of the conference room was suddenly opened, and a young woman walked in with an anxious expression on her face, as if she had something important to report. "Master, it's bad. Something, happened outside." The woman glanced at Jonathan and Shenhai, and felt that the original description was a bit bad, so she changed the way she said it. The leader frowned and asked, "What happened?" The woman took a breath and said, "A group of people broke into our church. They are destroying our facilities and injuring some of our believers." The church leader's face became very ugly. He stood up and said, "Let's go and take a look." Jonathan and Shenhai followed them out of the meeting room. When they came outside, they just saw a group of people clashing with the believers of the church. Jonathan looked around and saw that these troublemakers were ordinary people. "Who are you?" The church leader showed a trace of doubt on his face. Just then, a tall man walked out of the crowd. There was a sneer on his face, and a provocative look in his eyes. "Don't care who we are. The end of your Zhejiang Church has come. You have been following the water group to control superhumans for so many years, and I don't know how many dirty things you have done behind the scenes. The man's words were like a boulder thrown into a calm lake, stirring up thousands of waves. This wave of close-up attack was quite effective. The leader glared at the man and said, "You are talking nonsense. Our Zhejiang Church has always been committed to spreading truth and justice and working for the future of mankind. How could we do these things? How is it possible?" The man sneered and said, "Stop pretending. The congressman's speech in California this morning has exposed your true colors. You Zhejiang Church and the Water Group both control the two major superhuman groups in society, but the superhumans under your command have basically not done anything practical for the people. Member of the Congress, what congressman dares to speak so boldly? Aren't they afraid of dying on the wall the next day?" At this time, the people around them also began to talk about it. So this is what the Zhejiang Church is like. I thought they were really doing good things. Yeah, it seems we have all been deceived by them. The leader heard these discussions and tried to defend himself. Don't believe these rumors. Someone is deliberately slandering us. We, the Zhejiang Church, have always worked for the welfare of mankind and have never done anything bad. However, his defense did not have much effect. The crowd became more and more excited and began to throw stones and debris at the church's facilities. The believers of the church tried to stop them, but were pushed away by the angry crowd. Jonathan had a headache looking at the chaotic scene. This Zhejiang Church was more or less his partner. Since he was here, he might as well help. Everyone calm down, Jonathan said loudly. I know everyone has many questions and dissatisfactions with the Zhejiang Church, but can you listen to the bishops talk to you and see if there are any misunderstandings? The crowd was a little quieter after hearing Jonathan's words. The man said disapprovingly. Misunderstanding. The congressman's speech is the evidence. She would not slander the church for no reason. Just as the leader wanted to continue explaining, without any warning, a thin trace of blood suddenly oozed out of his nose. This trace of blood was particularly glaring in the eyes of everyone. Then, the fine trace of blood quickly spread, like a red silk thread climbing wantonly on the leader's face. Before people could react, a strong pressure suddenly rose from the inside of the leader's head. There was a loud bang, like thunder exploding in the ears. The leader's head exploded without warning. Flesh, broken bones, and brain matter splashed around under the huge impact force, forming a blood mist. The air was instantly filled with the pungent smell of blood and the disgusting smell of internal organs. The ground and walls were covered with blood and human tissue debris. The colorful religious images and slogans were now stained with blood. Jonathan absorbed the kinetic energy of the liquid, so he was not stained by the blood. Now Jonathan finally knew who that congressman was. Only Newman had such a charisma and such a long-range headshot ability. Newman's full name is Victoria Newman, with Latin American appearance. When she was a child, she was injected with compound number 5, which triggered her superpower of blowing people's heads off. She sent her parents to see Jesus directly. After that, she was sent to the local Red River Orphanage, which specializes in adopting superhuman orphans. Later, she was adopted by Stan Edgar. In fact, she was a hidden hand trained by the Vought Company. On the surface, she often performed shows and criticized the Vought Company and the Gathering Church, which have superhuman jurisdiction. In fact, she often carried out assassination missions. Over the years, she has eliminated many senior personnel. She is one of the trump cards deliberately set by Edgar. The Vought Group has done many shady things over the years. In order to block public opinion and federal investigations, the best way is to set up an anti-Vought organization and pretend to be the biggest, Vought Black, to supervise itself. The rebels, represented by Newman, are one of them. The Homelanders are just a surface, but in reality they are creating social panic, winning over the masses and selling compound number 5. In this way, the Vought Company has both the black and white sides, and no matter how much Congress opposes, it cannot stop the sale of compound number 5 to the army. The essence of Vought Company is to make medicine, and selling medicine is its foundation. In this way, both the black and white sides are Vought's people. Edgar directed and acted in a good show by himself, and he can also use this organization to clean up the superpowers who have a negative impact on Vought. But one thing to say. Now the Zhejiang Church and Vought are mutually cooperative and win-win. The two have always not disturbed each other and only played on the surface. Edgar suddenly did this, isn't it slapping himself? Or, this is Newman's own wish. That makes sense. And the fact is indeed so. Just 2 days ago in the middle of the night, an uninvited guest came to the backyard of Newman's house. This person was wearing a blue tights, a red robe, and a defiant face. Homelander, you came to my house in the middle of the night. What do you want to do? At this time, Newman was still wearing pajamas. She quickly pulled her clothes and looked at Homelander with a vigilant face. Hey, I'm a guest. Why, you don't welcome me? Or are you worried about the little girl pretending to sleep in the room? Homelander, what do you want to do? Actually, we can cooperate. Homelander narrowed his eyes, with a wicked smile, and his mouth was grinning. Cooperation? I don't want to cooperate with a dangerous person like you. I'm going to sleep, you go. Newman's face was full of rejection. Don't be impatient. Actually, I'm very curious. You are obviously a superhuman. Why do you keep an ordinary human little girl? Homelander, Zoe is my daughter no matter what, you'd better not have any thoughts about her. Oh, why did I hear that you are using your connections to find compound number 5 everywhere? If you want, I can give it to you. Homelander put his hands behind his back and looked down at Newman, feeling her heart beating wildly. You are moved. Tell me, what do you want? It's actually very simple. You won't lose out on this cooperation. I heard that you have been working for the election. How about we do this? Let me control the vote group, you become the vice president, and I will give you compound number 5. We will win together. At this point, Homelander spread his hands. Isn't this good? But now, you don't have the power of the entire 7 team. Then, we will have it again. The clip flashed back to the present again. Behind the crowd, in a very hidden corner, the black-haired, high-nosed Newman's eyes changed from pure white to normal color, and then he hurriedly left the crowd, and made a phone call while leaving. The scene changed. What's going on? The church members were panicked. They looked at the horrible corpse of the leader, and their brains crashed. The most devastated was Shanghai. He had just discussed the matter of his comeback with the leader the night before yesterday, but he didn't expect the leader to explode today. He looked at Jonathan anxiously, and Jonathan gave him a look that said don't worry, which made him calm down a little. After backstabbing Homelander, Shanghai's only support now is Jonathan. Fortunately, this new boss doesn't look panicked. However, the leader's death was so spectacular that it was certain to cause panic among the people present. Almost half of the protesters had run away, and only a few stubborn people were still holding signs and shouting. Jonathan ignored these jumping idiots, turned around and said to Shanghai, you should contact other superhumans of the church immediately to strengthen the protection of this place, and then see if you can find Newman's trace. Quote. After saying that, Jonathan walked straight to the garage and drove away. To be honest, he came here today just to borrow some people to facilitate brainwashing, but he encountered such a thing as soon as he came, and there was no sign before this. No matter how stupid Jonathan was, he could think that he was targeted by Newman. He was also at the scene of the protest. If nothing unexpected happened, then the cooperation between him and the Jijong Church would be exposed by the media on the internet, and then the public opinion would be directed in another direction. Sure enough, not long after Jonathan returned to the 7 Lighthouse, Ashley came to him in high heels with a tablet. Wu Jin, there are a lot of unfavorable public opinions on the internet now. When you went to the Jijong Church today, you were photographed by the media. I think you should take a good look at it. Ashley handed him the phone. On the screen was a tweet that had just been posted, from Congressman at Victoria Newman. It's time to reflect on our heroes. The 7 needs a real leader, not a traffic puppet of Vought Company. Hashtag let Homelander return Captain 7. Jonathan picked up his phone and continued to scroll down. At New York Times. 7. What kind of leader do we need? At Wall Street Journal. Superheroes and corporate interests. In addition to several major mainstream media, other official accounts also posted several videos that were obviously shot on the spot. At Entertainment Weekly. Special topic, Remembering Homelander, the end of an era. Through a series of nostalgic photos and fan interview videos, all the good things that Homelander has done are listed, and the sense of security and social support rate during his reign are emphasized. Looking at these hot searches and discussions, Jonathan can clearly feel that Newman is working hard to promote public opinion. It is now obvious that the goal is to elevate Homelander and return him to the position of Captain of the Seven. Without conflicts of interest, the ruthless Newman would never cooperate with Homelander, let alone help him. It seems that they are now trying to unite to target him. But is Jonathan afraid of being targeted? Don't forget that he still has the videotape that Shanghai gave him. As long as his support rate is still there, he will always have a trump card to beat Zubao half to death. Not only that, after obtaining the energy absorption ability, Jonathan's strength has now entered the first echelon in the Black Robe world, and he no longer needs to be timid as before. The strategy for this world needs to speed up. In a crowded small house that was rented temporarily, the air was filled with a musty smell, and there were a few unkempt spider webs in the corners. The soldier boy sat on a worn folding chair with a big mouthful of pills and a whole wheat bread in his hand. Opposite him, Billy Butcher was leaning against the wall, holding a mobile phone in his hand, with dozens of missed calls from him. Perhaps feeling the awkward atmosphere, the soldier boy put down the bread in his mouth and said, "So, you want to do something, just sit there. Do you have time to explain what happened?" "Well, this shit is a long story, veteran. You may be shocked when I tell you that it is 80 years after World War II. Butcher said, 80 years. If you lie to me, I don't mind pushing your head into Uranus. Oh, you can see the scenery on the street yourself. I don't have the energy to play such unnecessary tricks. Of course, I don't know why you were locked up in that laboratory that looked like a stinking ditch. Everyone thought you were dead back then." Buchel spread his hands. To be honest, if hadn't reminded him at the time, he really didn't know that the man in front of him was the captain of the Repair Alliance in World War II, Soldier Boy. "You don't just want to rescue me, do you?" A sharp light flashed in the soldier boy's eyes, and he poured out the pills, slapped his palms, and the pills flew into his mouth. "In fact, there is such a fool, called Homelander. Oh, I've seen his photo in the newspaper. What's his background?" Buchel sneered and shook his head slightly. "He is the new you." Hearing this, the soldier boy was full of disdain. "No one can replace me, man. So, your wish is for me to kill this countryman? Oh, to be precise, it's revenge. The teammates you mentioned yesterday are still alive and well. As long as you are willing to help me, I can help you find them. According to what you said back then, this is called teamwork." The soldier boy lowered his head and thought for a while, then showed a contemptuous smile. "Well, let me see what these good teammates are doing now. In fact, I just know where to find our first target." A few hours later, Butcher's car stopped outside a luxurious villa. "Old soldier, you actually recognize this place. Don't treat me like a coffin. We had newspapers back then, and what's more, this old guy didn't hide his residence, did he? You're right, the cigarettes you smoke are not bad, but the concentration is too high to be addictive." The soldier boy walked into the villa with a cigarette of unknown material in his mouth. "Hey, old soldier, you just walk in like this. Dude, do you think I need it?" The soldier boy left Butcher with a chic back and walked directly to the door outside the villa. With just a slight push, the door of the villa was opened. At this time, the old man who was lying and sleeping in the villa heard the loud noise of the villa door being opened, and suddenly opened his eyes. He put on his glasses and got up quickly, picked up the pistol in the cabinet vigilantly, and walked towards the door to check what happened. Just as he looked up to check, an unexpected person appeared in front of him, with long hair and a signature beard. "You are, soldier boy, you are not dead. It's all thanks to your group. Old man, I don't like what you said. Only you can live, but I can't live," the soldier boy said, throwing the cigarette butt to the ground and stomping it out with his foot. "Oh, are you here to kill me?" "Kill you? How many years can you live at this age? I'm not interested in killing you. On the contrary, I'm interested in killing my good teammates. As the former vice president of VOT, I believe you should know a lot about their situations, right? In fact, I'm also very sorry about what happened to you back then. Your uniform and shield are all stored here with me. As for your teammates, Shuance has now joined the 7 team. Scarlet Lady likes to mess around in the Heroes Club and usually makes money by live streaming at home. Mindstorm is in seclusion, and I'm not sure about the Gunpowder Gemini. You ask this, I guess you can't swallow this breath and want revenge, right? It seems that you know me very well. I really want to know why she betrayed me back then. The scene changed, and Butcher, who was standing by the car waiting, saw the soldier boy change his tie-dye changed into a battle uniform and even held a shield in his hand. Ward, where did you get the battle uniform? Where is Legend? I didn't come here to kill the old guy Legend this time. He won't live for many years. I just wanted to ask for information, but I didn't expect to get my old battle uniform back by accident. Lucky old soldier, where are we going next? Look for a modified car. Oh, you seem to call it a motorhome, and the license plate is. In the suburbs, a huge motorhome was parked by a tree. Looking inside, the interior color was warm and hazy, and neon was flashing. It was obvious that someone lived there for a long time. Inside the motorhome, an old woman in a red mask and uniform was performing acrobatics on the computer screen. On the other side of the screen was an old fan, watching the woman's acrobatic performance with fanatical eyes. Since retiring, the life of the Crimson Lady as an outdated hero has been extremely bad. Without any traffic, she can only rely on one-on-one acrobatic live broadcasts to earn some living expenses. Wait, I'll get a prop. As she spoke, the Baroness picked up a bunch of grapes and waved them in front of the screen. She turned around and adjusted her position. Just as she was about to do some acrobatics, her RV door was suddenly knocked. Wait a minute, it was late at night, and her car was parked in the suburbs. Who would come to visit her? Want to rob? Who dares to rob Chaoying's car? Isn't this seeking death? Thinking of this, the Baroness, with a puzzled look on her face, lifted her belt and opened the door. Hi, lady, an acquaintance is looking for you. Acquaintance? How long has she been out of fashion? Her teammates have all started their own businesses. How could an acquaintance come to her? What? Ah. Just as the Baroness wanted to check for other people's traces, Butcher suddenly jumped up and slashed at the back of the Baroness's neck. The Baroness was knocked unconscious and collapsed to the ground. Before setting out today, Butcher had injected a tube of temporary compound number 5, so he was naturally able to knock the superhuman Baroness unconscious directly. The light of dusk shone through the curtains of the RV, dyeing the small space with a layer of sunset red. The soldier boy walked slowly into the car, his leather boots making a slight sound on the metal floor. As soon as he entered the RV, his eyes were immediately locked on the figure tied up at the end of the RV. The Baroness, who originally looked elegant, was now in a mess. Her hands and feet were roughly tied up with several hemp ropes outside her crimson uniform, and her red hair hung messily beside her face. Even in this embarrassing situation, she still had a proud attitude and raised her chin slightly, but all this calmness disappeared completely when she saw the soldier boy. Seeing the soldier boy coming in, her expression suddenly became dull, and the whole person was down for dozens of seconds. After a long time, she spoke. You are back. The soldier boy slowly walked forward with a shield in his hand, with a playful smile on his lips. He looked deeply at the Baroness, with a dangerous light in his eyes. Long time no see, dear. You've grown old, he teased, with a hint of nostalgia in his voice. Seeing me, you don't seem to react as I expected. Hearing this, the Scarlet Lady snorted coldly and turned her head away, unwilling to look at him. The soldier boy chuckled, squatted in front of her, and forcibly twisted her chin to force her to look at him. Why, don't you want to see me? He raised his eyebrows and asked, with a hint of teasing in his tone. I came to see you on purpose. The lady finally spoke, her voice cold. Come to see me. Do you think these hemp ropes on my body are just for show? Oh, actually, I just want to know why you didn't come to save me for so long. The soldier boy's words seemed to touch a nerve of the lady, and a slight fluctuation flashed in her eyes, but she soon returned to indifference. Save you, she sneered. Do you think I will save you? The soldier boy stood up and paced in the small space. Let me guess. He pretended to think. The Russians gave you a lot of money, so you sold me. Hee hee. A hint of sarcasm flashed in the eyes of the Scarlet Lady. You are too naive, she said coldly. The fact is that the Russians didn't give me any money at all. I sold you out voluntarily. This sentence exploded in the air, but the soldier boy's expression did not change at all. He just raised his eyebrows, as if he heard a funny joke. Oh, he said softly. Go on, I'm interested. The lady seemed to be irritated by the soldier boy's indifferent attitude. She struggled to sit up straight, and the rope left red marks on her skin. Do you want to hear the truth? She gritted her teeth and said. I have always hated you. You are a fool. No one, including me and my teammates, doesn't hate you. The soldier boy shook his head gently, and the smile on his face suddenly became stiff, and his teeth began to move up and down. Seeing the soldier boy's reaction, the Scarlet Lady's eyes continued to flash a trace of ruthlessness. You know, maybe Walter thought you were a burden at the beginning, so he deliberately designed you to be captured by Russia. She scolded, venting all her dissatisfaction in her heart. You have never been a war hero, just a pathetic experiment. After hearing this, the soldier boy suddenly laughed, and the laughter echoed in the small space. He leaned over and approached the lady's face, with an extremely sad and angry look in his eyes. Thank you, dear, I can give you some respect. Hearing this, the Scarlet Lady's expression became alert. She subconsciously wanted to retreat, but was restricted by the rope. The soldier boy slowly stood up, his chest began to glow orange, and energy gathered in his body. Do you know, he said, with a hint of regret in his voice. I actually always hope that you can give me a reasonable explanation. Fear flashed in the eyes of the Scarlet Lady. She looked at the soldier boy in disbelief, and the whole person was stagnant in place. The whole RV seemed to be still at this moment, and the light drowned everything. The next day, the headquarters of Vought Company, the Intelligence Analysis Center. Homelander crossed his arms and stood in front of the huge display screen, frowning. A blurry surveillance video was played on the screen in a loop. A familiar figure jumped out of the luxury RV and quickly disappeared into the night. Zoom in, Homelander ordered, with a hint of subtle tension in his voice. The picture zoomed in, and the features of the figure became clearer. Blonde hair, the upright figure and the iconic uniform. Homelander cursed in a low voice. It's really him. At this time, Ashley was also standing aside, with a solemn expression. When was this picture taken? She asked in confusion. Just last night. A technician looked at the data on the computer and answered with his head raised. Half an hour before the body of the Scarlet Lady was found. Homelander took a deep breath and turned to face Ashley. We need to control public opinion, he said with urgency in his voice. The public can't know that Soldier Boy is back, at least not now. Ashley nodded. I understand, but should we notify Woojin first about this matter? He happens to be attending the Chamber of Commerce in the state where the attack took place. Is it necessary? I guess he is probably trapped in the public opinion of the Gathering Church and can't get away. I am the former captain, shouldn't I do this duty? Quote. Homelander smirked, showing his neat teeth evilly, and his eyes flashed with an extremely dangerous gleam. Okay, I will quickly hold a press conference to tell everyone that this is just an ordinary crime and the company has taken control of the situation. Is that okay? Very good. Homelander looked at her approvingly. Remember to emphasize that the Scarlet Lady was only slightly injured. I don't want to cause unnecessary panic. Also, as long as Woojin is not here, you all have to listen to me. Do you understand? Okay. Ashley was forced to smile in agreement under Homelander's tyranny, and then her high heels made a rapid sound on the floor, and she fled from the intelligence center. Homelander watched her leave and turned to the technicians. Continue analyzing the video. I want to know where he went. Quote. The analyst nodded and quickly operated on the tablet, and the holographic projection switched to a city map. According to our analysis, the actions of the soldier boy seem to follow a certain pattern. We speculate that his next target is likely to be the TNT twins. What are these? The TNT twins are often active in the Heroes River Crab Club, and the soldier boy may go there to seek revenge. Hearing the answer, Homelander held his forehead and walked out of the analysis center. His expression was uncertain, and his heart was churning with inexplicable emotions. Others may not know a secret, but he knows very well that he has the genes inherited from the previous generation of superhumans. In the early years, he learned from the researchers in the laboratory that he was cultivated through test tubes, and a large part of the source of the test tube ingredients came from those who were experimented. So sometimes he would feel inferior and think that he was not as strong as the previous generation of superhuman predecessors, not to mention the soldier boy who was the Repair Alliance back then. The captain of the League. Since childhood, Homelander has always regarded Soldier Boy as an idol, and has watched his movies no less than 100 times, but now, his idol has been resurrected, which means that if his news appears in the public eye, his position will be threatened. He was already very unhappy with Jonathan's position in the Seven, and now, even if it is his idol, he has to prove his power and strength to surpass the contemporary. He felt an extremely strong sense of crisis. This made him very uncomfortable. The climax meeting of the heroes. It seems that I have to go there. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.